Shout out to the chess club. We're aiming for a controversial 7 out of 10. But something's wrong with the game. 16 times the detail.
I'm vibing! Assassins, Creed Hexe.
Something's wrong with the game. But something's wrong with the game.
Death to all of them.
That's most definitely what's up.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Hi. Hopefully you're having a good day. I know I am. I know I'm vibing. You vibing? We vibing? He, she, it is vibing. Good. Good.
I'm vibing!
Damn right, Tammy. Damn right. How's everybody doing? Everybody good? Rocking and rolling on this lovely, gorgeous, stunning, brave, and beautiful Wednesday. Unless you live in like Eastern Russia or Japan, in which case I think it's probably pretty close to Thursday by now. So we're very inclusive here. I mean, whether you're here today or tomorrow, I'm glad. I completed my move from Denver to Oregon. Oh, baby. You don't have to tell me where in Oregon. I've only ever been to one place in Oregon, so I don't really know that much about it. But when I went to Oregon, I loved it. It was gorgeous. Like, it got me thinking, I could live here. I could live here because I love the like misty rain and the moss. Oh, I love it. It tickles my fancy. Tell you what, tickles my fancy. My PC arrived today. Ooh, awesome. That's great. Yeah, my PC, I don't know what the deal is, but my front IO is not consistently working. So I think I gotta open it up and double check cables and connections. Maybe a wire slipped and got disconnected or something, because the front power button will only turn the PC on after you cycle the power supply unit, like flipping the switch on the back completely off and then back on. And even then, sometimes it won't work. And I have to take off the glass panel and press the power on button that's on the motherboard, and then it works. Which is not how that's supposed to happen. And I don't know why it's like that, but it is. So I'm hoping it's just like an IO issue and that's it. But if it is not an IO issue, if it's like a motherboard issue, I'm in more trouble. I don't know how else it would happen or why it would be like that. Brandon, good for you, man. Thank you for the 2. Good for you. Connection, that's what I'm hoping for. I haven't had the chance to open it up in the last couple days because we were working on stuff, but I'm gonna open it up probably over the weekend and see what we can figure out. Yeah, me too. Love that cloudy. This should make me feel sad vibes. Yeah. I I don't know what it is. I just like feeling like I'm living in a Tim Burton movie. Like, you know how there's that thing, seasonal affective disorder, affected disorder, where you're supposed to feel like depressed when the weather gets dreary, and some people have like depressive feelings during winter specifically. For me, it's the opposite. For me, it gets to like the dreary weather, and that gets me happy. Like, I love it. I don't know what it is. People say I'm weird, but it's a common thing in Colorado where it goes from being so sunny and bright and so fresh aired and everything in the summer to dreary, cold, miserable fall. And I don't know. I think it's because I grew up here that I like the opposite. You know, if I grew up in like Seattle where it's super rainy all the time, I'm sure now I would like it more sunny, but because you get to stay and play video games. Yeah, I mean that is part of it. I still remember the day I played Celeste for the first time. You remember Celeste, that platformer from a handful of years ago? I was in my college house and it was a snowy day, like borderline blizzard. We got like 4 feet of snow or something. And so they canceled all of my college classes for the day. So I was snowed in. I was like, I don't have anything else to do. So I sat on the couch in our college house basement and I played through all of Celeste in one sitting. And it was pretty Gucci. I'm gonna be real. Stellar Blade review reactions? Hell yeah. I'm down. I saw one. I guess I'll show you because it perfectly encapsulates my experience talking about Stellar Blade. So I'll show you that. It's pretty funny. Because it's pretty freaking stupid, but yeah, I'll get there. Let me pull this up. You said IGN's was funny? Okay. I can do that. Yeah, coming from Colorado, I feel the same. Also grew up in Colorado. Yeah. I think it's just you're used to this, and so you want the opposite. In the same way, like, I go to the ocean and I feel rejuvenated. Like, it's so fresh and new and different for me. But I knew one person that grew up in Hawaii, and she said that it was the opposite for her. She's like, I come to the mountains and I get that. But it's because I'm used to this, you know, to the ocean and everything. So I think it's just the grass is always greener, you know. You should look up the voice of Bayek's new game, Tales of Kenzera. It's been getting praise. You get a lot of flack because of Sweet Baby Inc. Oh, baby. Sweet Baby. No. I actually got reached out to by EA, and they offered to do to basically sponsor an I Tried video. As always, I'm allowed to say whatever I think. They actually, this I will give them credit for. A lot of companies will be like, yeah, you can say whatever you want, but it's not like written down anywhere other than in our communications. And so it's like, yeah, you can say whatever you want, but you know, it's not in like black and white. It's just understood. For this Tales of Kenzera EA Tried thing, or EA Play I Tried thing that we're posting today, they actually wrote in the contract, Luke has to speak his honest opinions, positive or negative. His response has to be his own and has to be genuine. So like, they straight up say, it has to be exactly what you think. Even if it's not positive, we want to hear what you actually think, which, to their credit, not something you hear from many companies. We've had deals, I'm gonna be real, I'm not naming any names, but we've had companies for like mobile games that offer thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. But they say, like, you have to say this verbatim, you have to say this, you have to say it's your favorite game ever, you have to... And it's like, I'm not going to do that. Like, this is insane. But people still do it. Like, you know, those ads you see on, yeah, AFK Journey. I was just about to say those like TikTok ads where, oh my God, this game is the best game I've ever played. And the artwork is so good. That kind of thing. Those people, I guarantee, were not making very much money, but they still are doing it. And why are they always yelling? That's what I don't understand. Like, they're always yelling. Drives me crazy. But yeah, it's stupid. But yeah, I've noticed that they've gotten very clear with transparency. They want you to be honest, which I can really appreciate, because for a while, I think maybe 10 years ago, there was maybe some gray area where they might sponsor you to do this or that. But me and my agent have just made it very clear, like, nope, we're going to say what we think and be honest about it. That's part of what you're getting when you sponsor us to do stuff. So if I like something and I talk about how I like it, it'll be awesome. You know? I hate that YouTube yelling speak. Yeah, I don't. There's got to be a reason for it, because so many people do it. And like, here's the deal. Okay, confession time. This is like really embarrassing, so I'm just gonna say it. Back in like October, November, I got the chance to go to like that Avatar event, and I met a bunch of people who were like TikTokers and YouTube shorters or whatever you call them. And I, like a week or two before, I had done a whole rant on the stream about how it drove me crazy, how I had come across this like TikToker who just yelled everything and just was like, do you know that it almost sounds like Borat. Do you know that subsequent game film is really good? It was almost like that, but it's just constantly yelling stuff. And I ranted about how much it drove me crazy and all that. I was like, it's not even intelligible. It's just rots your brain. I don't understand it. And then, not in our group, it was in a different group, because they kind of had us separated out, where they had like some IGN people and then they had us over here, and so they had us in different groups. But in another group from us was that exact TikToker that I had spent a lot of time teasing, and I felt a little awkward about it. I mean, I stand by what I said. I would say it to their face, because they don't talk like that in person, but for some reason when they turn the camera on, it's just, you must play this game very good. It's just really stupid. It drives me crazy. Why does everything you say have to be in all caps? I don't. What's up, Biznatches? Thank you, Spencer. What's up, Biznatches? Thank you also to Miradonis74 for resubbing with Prime over on Twitch. It's been 6 months. Oh, baby. That's crazy. Wow. Hello, Luke. Proud to be 6 months member. Yeah, I'm proud of you too. Thank you, my friend. Truly appreciate you. 6 months. Time flies when you're having fun. Yeah, well, TikTok is about to be banned, so we Gucci then. Yeah, in case you are not aware, they basically put the TikTok ban and buried it into legislation for like relief and aid to Ukraine. So they passed it as part of that bill, but buried it in this other thing. So senators and members of the House could just say, no, we didn't pass the TikTok ban. We passed the relief bill that also had that in it. But, you know, the aid bill was more important to fight Putin, or whatever they would say about it. And it's just really sneaky and slimy. But the whole point of it is to try and force whatever, ByteDance, is that the company? It's to try to force them to sell it. So you're probably going to see like some appeals and stuff, or lawsuits filed to try and reverse this. But I would guess you probably see them sell like the US operations of TikTok to somebody like Meta. I think it makes more sense for Meta to buy it than anybody else. I don't like the idea of Meta owning it, but who else would buy it? I don't think Apple wants to buy a social media platform. I don't think Microsoft really wants to. It's like, who buys it? Probably like maybe Elon, but Elon doesn't have that much like cash on hand. Elon's very, very wealthy, but the thing is, like, having a lot of stock is a lot different from having cash. So I'm not sure if Elon could do it realistically. And he was talking the other day about bringing back Vine. So you might see Vine come back, because Twitter bought Vine back in the day and then shut it down for whatever reason. And so you might see them bring Vine back to X. Tesla stock hitting a bit of a snag right now. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy because I bought some of the stock yesterday morning. Because there were a lot of rumblings and things about them potentially doubling down on cheaper models of cars, which is all investors really wanted to hear. And sure enough, that's what they did. So I bought, I don't remember how many shares, but I made a pretty penny yesterday. I probably bought it at like 140. It was right at open. So it was like, I think I got it at like 141, 142, somewhere in there. And then I just sold it. So like, I made like 10% on it. Nice and easy. I'm not holding Tesla long term because right now there's just too much up in the air. But if I know the stock is going to go up when they do their earnings call, might make some quick cash. Why not? Todd. Yeah, Todd will Todd will save us all. Oh man. Anyway, oh, I need to publish that. So speaking of the Tales of Kenzera video, I'll publish that now. I will say I liked it. I think it's really original. It's a different kind of game than we've gotten from a lot of other companies and stuff. So it felt fresh. At the same time, it had a couple of little hiccups here and there. Like I think the combat got really repetitive, which I didn't love. Yeah, I have a landscaper I'm trying to get a hold of to redo our front lawn, and he just sent me the quote for it. It's taken him 2 weeks to get me the quote, and his quote just came in 50% higher than he told me he was going to put it in. Joke's on him. I have another company I'm gonna hire because he's taken so freaking long. That's the thing. If I'm like, hey, I'll give you business, get this done quick, and then you take 2 weeks, you lost the business, man. I'm sorry. Sucks to suck. You're not entitled to my money, my good man. Okay. I think this is good. Let me hit publish. Okay, and then I tried series public. Boom, you guys are here for it. The video going live now. And I mean, shout out to EA for sponsoring a video to let me try, because I wouldn't normally cover that game probably just because it's more niche. But they sponsored it, and so I could justify making the video on it, which I think is awesome. You know? And they let me say whatever I want, which is exactly what you'd hope for. So, that was a quick publish. I already got the note. Oh, sweet. Thank you, my friend. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear it's working. Okay. You ready? Tesla's such a bubble. The valuation does not reflect neither financial metrics nor production levels. I agree, Objective, which is why I would not hold Tesla long-term, in my humble opinion. Not official financial advice, but I would not hold Tesla long-term specifically for that reason. It's being valued right now under the promise of automated driving, of robo-taxis, or what they said they're calling them, cyber taxis. So the idea that Tesla vehicles will drive themselves around town and basically be Ubers for you. So you can order a Tesla, it'll drive, pick you up, you hop in, it drives you where you want to go, you hop out, and it drives away. And they get to make money every step of the way. That could make tons of money. You're right. Like, you don't have to pay the drivers like Uber does. Oh, sweet. Yeah, no, that could make tons of money. So like that's their big push. And then they're also going to be selling traditional vehicles. And then on top of all of that, they also have the whatever Optimus or whatever it's called, robo like Android things that they're going to be working on. And those are supposed to be able to do like all sorts of menial tasks, like factory labor, working in Amazon, like distribution centers, it's supposed to be doing all of that, and they're all supposed to kind of share similar tech. So the androids will use the same sort of neural network that the cars use to train and get better at driving, but they'll use that to train how to perform tedious tasks. So if you really hate like clearing rocks out of a rock bed, well, just have the $15,000 android do it. He can work 24/7, and then he just stops and charges for a bit, and then he goes and keeps working. And if he gets hurt, who cares? If he breaks, who cares? Like, it's not a big deal. So they're being valued at the promise of all of that stuff happening, where they could make lots of money. But yeah, basically Delamain. They're trying to make Delamain is what Tesla's doing. So they're right. If all of that comes to fruition, it would be extremely valuable. But it's not a given that will happen. And we all know, like, Elon does not have the best track record when it comes to predicting when things will be done or released or anything else. So it's just not clear if that works. I will say the self-driving, right now it's supervised, but I tried the self-driving Tesla thing recently, and it's crazy. Like, it's crazy. It's way better than you probably realize it is. It drives significantly better than most people I know. Like, it's ridiculous. It has all sorts of weirdly human behaviors because it's trained on human data. Like, it's freaky. It's freaky. So anyway, time to sneak into the Arasaka base. Yeah, exactly. Okay, you ready? Let's check it out. New segment. Okay, so in case you've missed it somehow, the one, the only Stellar Blade has had the review embargo lift. People have posted their reviews. In general, right now, it seems to be floating, from the numbers I've seen floating on social media, it floats around like an 8 out of 10 for most reviewers, it seems. You guys were telling me that the IGN review is funny, so we're going to watch that one. But I did see one review that perfectly encapsulated my experience with the game. So I did a video on the demo that they released, and my experience with the demo was that I really liked it. I thought the game was way better than I was expecting it to be. Huge set pieces, very cinematic, a really solid combat system. Like, I was expecting it to mostly be about Booba and that's about it. But no, like, there's actually a really good game here, and there's also Booba. So it's everything you could possibly want. But my experience with the group of people that are most excited for this game, shall we say, has been that there is so much toxicity related to this game that it's not even really something I want to cover in a lot of detail. And it's not from the group you might think. There are toxic people who are like, you should cancel it because they're wearing skinny, tight clothes, and that's whatever. That's toxic or toxic masculinity or whatever they say. There's those people who I agree are just obnoxious and annoying. But then the other group are the people that are such simps for this that it's like totally asinine. There was one guy that I mentioned this on stream before, but there was one guy that responded to a comment I made in the video where I said, like, yeah, the gameplay is really good, but then, you know, the booba and the butts, it appeals to that primal monkey brain part of the part of your brain that just likes that sort of thing and makes you go, ooh, ah, I love that. And a guy commented, was like, actually, Luke, this is really disappointing to hear from you because we are not apes. I will have you know, we were made in the image of God, and I am not a monkey. I simply appreciate the female form. And it was like, oh my God, dude, chill out. It was very, very obnoxious. But this guy, Imran Khan, you probably have seen him around X and Twitter and everything. Senior editor or former senior editor at Game Informer, did a review for GameSpot as well. He got this response to his review. Your opinion has no value. Please go and simp for Hades 2, hypocrite. GameSpot has no value. Cry more racisms and sexisms, pathetic loser. What do you think he gave the game as a score? You'd read that and you might think like a 4 out of 10 or a 3 out of 10. No. He gave the game an 8 out of 10. Said it does a lot of really good stuff. A strong battle system and exciting moments make Stellar Blade more than just an imitator. It's a positive review. He gives it an 8 out of 10, echoes some of the other bad things that other people have brought up. Every individual section just goes on a little too long. Environmental variety in the free roam areas is sorely needed, especially for a global adventure. Often changes mechanics for small sections, but not always successfully. And so it's a varied review, but overall, he calls it great. And this guy is like, wow, your opinion has no value, you simp. Like, it's just stupid. It's just stupid. But that's been my experience as well, is that some people are going to play this and just have a good time, but the vocal minority that are like the incel bros just make this something I just don't want to bother with. You know, it's like, I'll play it myself and have fun, but I don't want to deal with those people. And so I'm good. I'm not gonna mess with it. But now I'm interested because you guys are saying that the IGN review is funny. So we're gonna see what this one's like and check it out. Also, Pixelated Campfire, thank you for the super chat. Hello, Luke. Have you watched the Fallout 76 Honest Con? Please take a look. It's Todd Howard after all. Love your work. Oh, my friend, we just watched it on Monday's stream. So if you've not seen that, you should go check it out. I don't know if Jacob cut a stream clip from it or not. Because it had just come out, and usually we try not to do the stream clips too soon after the video first goes up. But either way, we did watch it on Monday, and it's very, very good. So you guys are saying it's funny, it's a terrible review. Okay, we'll see what this is like. We'll see what it's like. Let's give it a shot.
In his own words, Stellar Blade director Hyung-tae Kim is a visualist, not a storyteller. Meaning, whatever Stellar Blade lacks in its story, he's tried to make up for in its gameplay. It was a refreshingly transparent statement, and after playing through Stellar Blade, it's also one that I find mostly accurate. This is a gorgeous action game with excellent character and monster design, and exciting combat that continues to evolve in fun and interesting ways across the 30-hour adventure. Its story, light RPG elements, and the actual substance of its characters, on the other hand, fall well short of the high marks set by its combat. Stellar Blade certainly isn't pristine, and in some spots it's positively dull, but it's sharp in the areas that matter the most.
That all seems relatively placid as a take. I think from the demo, my impression was that this was probably going to land in like, I would have guessed, I think I said in the video, probably around the 8 out of 10 mark, just because I think the combat's really good, but nobody's thinking that the story is going to be super compelling or anything. And usually if you have a really solid combat system and then like a fine story or a forgettable story, you usually land in that 8 out of 10 mark. Sometimes you get a game like maybe an Elden Ring, which has phenomenal gameplay, and then the story is like, I don't know what's going on, but I love it. And in that case, it can still be a 10 out of 10. But with this, it's like, yeah, it's a really good combat system. Nothing like generation defining or anything in terms of gameplay, but it's solid enough, and the story is meh. So like an 8 out of 10, it's really good. I think that's totally fine. But Jose, but girl look hot, so 10 out of 10. But jiggle physics, 10 out of 10, right?
Stellar Blade's setting is a familiar one. The Earth is a post-apocalyptic wasteland, and humans have fled to a colony in space. You play as Eve, a member of the 7th Airborne Squad, who is sent to the surface to eliminate the threat of the Natiba.
I know this isn't technically canon, but I'd like to think that this is basically the like alternative ending to WALL-E, because like human civilization leaves Earth, goes into space, lives on a giant spaceship. I'd like to think like if WALL-E failed and they all crash back down to Earth, this is the alternative ending. It would make for a really interesting Pixar movie, I'll tell you what.
Monsters that laid claim to Earth once the humans fled. What follows is a predictable tale that sees Eve linking up with the last remnants of human civilization and collecting 4 hypercores guarded by 4 big bosses, each of which comes with new revelations that answer the questions of what happened to the Earth, why the humans fled to space, what created the Natibas, and so on and so forth. None of the reveals were particularly surprising, and while the back half of the story is a little bit more interesting once all the cards are laid out on the table, any emotional moments fell flat for me because of a near complete lack of character building in the front half. And this is really the biggest issue with Stellar Blade's story. Its characters lack any kind of personality, charm, charisma, or anything that could have endeared me towards them in any sort of way.
Okay.
After 30 hours, I can barely tell you anything noteworthy about Eve outside of the fact that she's fiercely dedicated to her mission, she's very close with her fellow 7th Airborne squad mate Taki, and she doesn't like getting wet.
I'd like to avoid getting wet.
We're never really given any sort of insight as to who she is as a character. She's got no sense of humor, and her interactions with her companions Adam and Lily are incredibly shallow.
I mean, we kind of got that vibe also from the demo as well. But again, I don't think that's why you're playing a game like this. So to me, it's like, it's not that shocking. Yeah, these robots have no personality. You're right. No, it's like justified in the story, perhaps, or in the world and setting why they might be a little bit more flat. Doesn't change the fact that they're flat, though. You know. Yeah, with the writing, let me be clear. They are not flat in other ways, but they're flat when it comes to the writing. Okay, I'll shut up.
Two don't fare much better either. Despite the fact that they act like they share a strong bond, it never feels believable because you never really see that bond being formed. Without any of that, it was hard to become invested in Eve, her mission, or Stellar Blade's world in general.
Oh.
Thankfully, the most important part of an action game is the action itself, and Stellar Blade checks pretty much all the boxes when it comes to its combat. It's smoothly animated, challenging, satisfying, has a healthy amount of enemy variety, and while there's a lot of depth, it never became overwhelming in what it demanded of me. You could say that Stellar Blade's combat is derivative, but at the very least, it's derived from one of the best in Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. Like Sekiro, it is very defense-driven. Enemies are prone to launching into long, uninterruptible combos, and the only way to properly deal with them is to precisely press the block button just before their attacks land to parry each attack one after the other. Every parry you land takes away a point from the enemy's balance, and once their balance is broken, you're able to land a hugely damaging blow that will kill most standard enemies outright and deal massive damage to bosses. Unparryable attacks are clearly telegraphed with flashes of color. A yellow flash means an attack is straight up unblockable and needs to be dodged. A blue flash signals an attack that you can blink past by holding forward and dodging through the opponent to their backside, and then a purple flash is the sign of an attack that can be repulsed, which forces you to hold back and press the dodge button at just the right time to deflect and expose the enemy's weak point. Once again, all of this is very similar to Sekiro's style of telegraphing unblockable moves that either must be jumped over, be Kiri countered, or avoided at all costs, and it works just as well here. Developer Shift Up smartly didn't settle for just straight up copying Sekiro's combat either. It adds its own twists in the form of beta skills, which are a series of 4 special attacks that Eve can use for specific purposes, including a wide sweeping attack that hits multiple enemies, a triple stab attack that does massive single target damage, a shockwave type move that hits enemies at a distance, and a shield breaker that deals extra damage to an enemy's armor. These attacks can be used by spending beta energy, which is gained by
Beta. I mean, I remember during the demo, there was an issue where there was a little bit of too much latency between when you would press the sort of parry block button and when it would actually register. And I remember them saying that they were patching it to fix it. Did they fix it? Anybody in chat know? Because it was just a little bit annoying, just like annoying enough for you to notice it, you know? Is there still input delay? I mean, I guess we don't know because the game's not technically out yet, but this seemed like a game that would be significantly better on PC. If you could play it at like 120 frames or whatever, and basically no input latency at all. It wasn't fixed. You just forget about it or get used to it. I don't know. It was enough that it was bugging me. Like, I remember I was filming that video and there were a few times fighting that boss where I was like, okay, like that didn't feel that great. Because I mean, the age-old thing with these types of games, as I and many other people have said for a long time, is that they're only fun if they're fair. Like, if it feels unfair, it feels unfun. It's really not more complicated than that. It sounds you know, extremely simple, because it is. The moment that you start to feel like something is happening that's like beyond your control, or that something in the game isn't working quite right, you just give up on it. Like it creates this disconnect. And sometimes that can happen with maybe like hitboxes, where you're like, I dodged out of range of that attack and they did a ground slam and it traveled 30 feet and hit me, when last time I could have sworn it only went 10 feet. You know, it's really inconsistent. Or they sweep and I'm clearly not touching the weapon, but it still dealt damage. Things like that can feel really unfair. And the other thing that can feel unfair is when there's input latency and you're pressing the button, but it's not reacting as quickly as you might want it to. If you get used to it, your brain can kind of compensate and just do it earlier, press the button earlier. But and maybe that is something, as you play the whole game, you just get used to it and you're fine. By the end of the demo, I had a pretty good feeling of it, but it was just annoying enough that it bugged me just a tad.
Landing hits and parrying strikes, so you're well incentivized to engage with the enemy as opposed to just running away and sneaking in a hit when you can.
That guy's trippy.
Speaking of those enemies,
Ooh, baby. Dude, their enemy design in this game is so good, though. And unique, too. Like, the weird saw blade head dudes. Like, it's just very unique. I don't know what style this is, if there's a name for it, but it's super, super cool. And it's just refreshing to get a game like this that has different enemy designs, and it doesn't feel like it's just trying to, like, rip off something From Software's done.
one of the areas in which Stellar Blade particularly
Ugh.
excels in is its enemy variety and design. There are more than 48 different types of Naytiba to fight against, and while some of them are only slight variations of each other with different weapons, at least those different weapons have their own combos and techniques that you need to learn in order to properly deal with them.
Jeez, dude.
Boss fights are great too, with intense battles against huge and aggressive monsters that always had me on the edge of my seat. Combat felt fresh all throughout the 30 hours it took me to beat it. Partially because of the aforementioned enemy variety, but also because at just about every major chapter in the campaign, I would get a new tool or mechanic that changed up how I approached certain encounters. There's a wrist-mounted drone that could fire a bunch of different ammo types from a distance, along with new mechanics like burst skills that added yet another layer of resource management and became critical for tough fights. Burst skills are similar to beta skills in that they are special attacks that require energy to use, but they are more powerful and typically result in an enemy being slumped on the ground. To balance that added strength, burst energy is much harder to build, requiring you to either perfectly dodge enemy attacks, successfully use a blink or repulse, or by spending a point of your beta energy to use a beta chain, which essentially exchanges the two resources. It was fun to make on-the-fly decisions about whether to spend 2 points of beta energy on a less powerful beta skill, or spend a single point to gain a point of burst energy and then use a much stronger attack later.
This is one of those things that makes the game sound far more complicated than it is. Like, when you're playing it, it's very fluid and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do this and then do that. But in the moment, you're like hearing this like explained verbally, and it's like, oh my god, so I have to like do mental math and calculate if I want to do it. But it's really not that bad. It just sounds bad.
Considerations like these that really make some of the tougher bosses in Stellar Blade sing. Not to mention the fact that the burst skills themselves just look cool as all hell.
Oh baby.
The cherry on top of all this excellent action is the exceptional soundtrack, which features everything from blood-pumping bangers during boss battles to beautiful, ear-tingling melodies while exploring its desolate world. When you're not hacking away at Stellar Blade's horrific-looking Naytiba monstrosities, you'll be doing some light RPG activities like exploring Zion, mankind's last bastion of civilization, restocking at shops, changing your hair, picking up quick and light requests from a bulletin board, or taking on meteor side quests from NPCs. True to everything else in Stellar Blade, none of these tasks were particularly interesting from a storytelling perspective, save for one involving a man and his love for a broken-down singing android.
What? Is that so?
They do occasionally culminate in a big round 2 fight against a stronger version of a boss I had previously fought, but outside of those few moments, I quickly found myself tired of the side quest grind. First off, many of these side quests have you returning to old levels in order to reach a specific spot to either pick up some sort of note or item to deliver back to the quest giver. While this is mostly fine in the more open-ended zones where there's a map and numerous fast travel points to make travel much less of a chore, it is an absolute pain when it comes to the linear levels where you have nothing to guide you but a blip on your compass. Most of the time, virtually nothing has changed in these levels either, so it's literally just retracing your steps through the same level, minus any of the surprises you might have encountered on your first time through, all to collect a single item that you weren't able to pick up before.
I don't know what you're talking about. In Starfield, that was my favorite part, was just running for 5 minutes straight without doing anything. You thought we were going to do a segment without talking about Starfield? No, baby. Of course we were. Of course we were going to bring it up.
What makes this worse is that very rarely did I ever feel the effort was worth the trip. Most of the time, the rewards are just gold and EXP. EXP is great, as level ups give you skill points to explore more of Stellar Blade's well-developed skill trees. But later on, which was when the side quest fatigue started to settle in, skill points were less exciting because the remaining upgrades were either skills I had passed on because I didn't really feel like I needed them, or they felt like very incremental stat increases on moves I didn't use very often, or were just extremely situational upgrades.
I mean, I think the whole thing with side quests, though, is that they are optional. That's kind of the point of side quests, is like, you don't have to do them if you don't want to. So, like, I agree, we should all hope that side quests are all great and have stories tied to them and are all, like, enhancing your experience elsewhere. And it sounds like some of the side quests are that good and do have some interesting stories tied to them, like the one he mentioned with the guy that's in love with the broken down singing android. But I mean, some of them are just going to be chances to go and re-explore areas you've already been to. I think that's pretty typical. I also don't think that this is I don't think this has a lot of Metroidvania style elements where, like, you unlock an ability, you go back through a previous level, and now you can take a different path or unlock new doors. I think it's a little bit different. Incremental increase in stats. Let me Valhalla energy. Oh, you mean
Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Yeah, Valhalla was another animal entirely, though, because, like, it's one thing if you get a 5% increase to damage dealt through melee attacks or something. In Valhalla, it was straight up like plus 0.73% damage because like it was all algorithmic as far as I can tell. So like they had a spreadsheet that calculated each level you go up by 0.3 times or 1.3 times, and so you multiply that out and it filled out this massive skill bush. It wasn't even a tree, it was a skill bush, and there were just so many. Like I forget what the max level in that game is, but it's like 300 or 350 or 400, some of them stupid like that. Like there's so many freaking levels and points to apply in that game, it's crazy.
Then there's gold, which for the most part is a useless currency in the latter half of the campaign. It's used pretty much exclusively for refilling consumables or getting more crafting components, which I practically never had to do because you find so many of all of those things just by opening treasure chests and breaking boxes. Thankfully, exploration fares much better. The 2 open zones of Stellar Blade aren't enormous, but they are densely packed with hidden collectibles and fun enemy encounters that always made me want to thoroughly explore as much as possible before making a break for the objective marker. There are collectible cans that can be returned to your base for a variety of rewards, core parts that increase your max health and energy, robot loot pinatas that contain all sorts of goodies, exoskeletons that greatly affect your stats and can affect your approach to combat, and of course 30 or so outfits that you can use to change Eve's appearance. There is an impressive variety among those costumes. So for every skimpy swimsuit or super tiny miniskirt, there's also a classy dress or stylish outfit that makes Eve look like, as my wife puts it, an insta-baddie. I always look forward to finding a new skin.
He's like, I swear to God, I'm married. Chill out, I'm married. I think that's the first time I've ever heard somebody mention their wife in an IGN review, which is a little funny. It's a little funny, just a tad.
And truthfully, it's very satisfying to have another big action game outside of Insomniac's Spider-Man series that features really high quality unlockable cosmetics that you don't have to purchase with real money microtransactions.
Yeah, isn't that refreshing? Dude, it's crazy when you look at a lot of games now, even just like single player adventure games on the AAA level. All of the cool outfits or unique outfits are locked behind paywalls and stuff, or like pre-order bonuses and stuff like that. I mean, there's other games that have it, but it's locked behind grind. Like Jedi Survivor, you had to go and hunt all over the maps for like different haircuts and beards and all sorts of stuff. I remember like working really hard in Jedi Survivor to get to a platform that had a chest or crate or whatever it was in it. And I was like, okay, this is going to be something really, really cool, because this was not easy to get to. And I got there and I go up to it. I open up the chest and it's like, congratulations, you got sort of a weird ducktail mullet. I was like, what? It's kind of frustrating. I was like, why can't I like just have a different haircut? Is that too much to ask? Like everything has to be tied to like either grind or making me pay for it. Maybe I'm insufferable. Maybe I can't be happy. Maybe that's the problem. I'm the problem.
One other feather in Stellar Blade's cap is that it mixes up its gameplay fairly well. Occasionally, you'll have to go deep underground into a creepy lab where your scanner and sword don't work, turning it into a genuinely spooky survival horror style game. There are also some cool Uncharted-like action sequences, as well as a good mix of linear and non-linear level design. Not all of these breaks from combat hit, and the platforming heavy sections are particularly annoying whenever they come up, but they nonetheless do a good job of relieving the monotony that would come from just going fight to fight with nothing in between. After beating Stellar Blade, it's also worth mentioning that there's no New Game Plus at launch. It will be coming down the line as free DLC, but right out of the gate, there's not much waiting for you at the end beyond a hard mode that doesn't really seem to change much outside of the enemies hitting you harder. This is especially frustrating because...
Have I not seen that outfit yet? That's great. That's awesome. Just a gigantic, like, teddy bear waifu. That's great.
Once you beat the game, your save file with all of your unlockables, costumes, and other collectibles is basically stuck at the final boss fight. You can't take those costumes over with you to a new game, forcing you to do an entirely fresh playthrough outside of one new costume that you get for beating the game, and you can't even skip cutscenes on your subsequent playthroughs.
Oh, really? That is a bit of an oversight. I mean, some games, like I would imagine this one too, they use cutscenes to cover load screens. That's like something Naughty Dog did all the time, where you'd be watching a cutscene and you're like, okay, well, I'm taking in the story. But if you've ever tried to like speed run a Naughty Dog game, or you've played it enough that you want to just skip through cutscenes, you'll notice you skip the cutscene and then there's a big load screen that happens. And that's because that's happening behind the cutscene. While that's playing out, they're loading in the next level and everything. So it's not as simple as just hitting the skip button or whatever. The promise of the PS5 was to kind of get over that because of the SSDs and stuff. But I think it's sucky that even in subsequent run-throughs, you can't even try to skip cutscenes. Because like you've been there, done that. You know what's happening. You just want to get to the gameplay.
Stellar Blade stands out as a gorgeous and well-crafted action game with very impressive strengths and very clear weaknesses. Both its story and characters lack substance, and some of its RPG elements are poorly implemented, like dull side quests that very often force you to retrace your steps through previous levels, with very little done to make the return trip feel unique or rewarding. But its action picks up most of that slack thanks to the rock-solid fundamentals of its Sekiro-inspired combat system, a deep well of hideous monstrosities to sharpen your sword against, and plenty of hidden goodies that do a great job of incentivizing exploration all throughout.
Okay. I mean, honestly, a 7 out of 10 is like lower than I thought they were going to go after all that. But on their rating scale, it's still considered good. And I would say that after listening to all of that, I would have guessed he was rating it good or like great, somewhere in that range. So somewhere between 7 and 8. So it's on the lower end of what I was expecting, but still it's there. So yeah, I mean, people in the comments are like freaking out about it. But I mean, like I said, even if you take exactly what's just been said as spoken word fact, he's still saying that the combat's really good, the fundamentals of gameplay are really good, and that's all anybody was really hoping for with this game. I mean, if you were expecting some like really intense, captivating story, you might be disappointed at the end of the day, but still. Boone, 4 months, baby. Ooh, baby. Thank you, my friend. That's tremendous. 4 months. Time flies when you're having fun, I'll tell you what. Thank you, my friend. Good to see you as well. And then also, Basit, thank you for the super chat. Since you mentioned Jedi Survivor, did you get in a fight with Darth Vader? Did he mention something about being okay? A parental dude. You know, growing up as Luke, my whole childhood, people constantly, hey, Luke, I'm your father. I remember this like kind of creepy pastor at a church we went to that like thought it was so funny to be like, I'm your father. And it made me really uncomfortable. It made me not want to like ever watch Star Wars or ever interact with Star Wars. And I think it's because when I was growing up, you know, that was during the age of like the prequels coming out and all that. So Star Wars was sort of seeing a resurgence, whereas now it's died down. I almost never hear that type of thing. But growing up, it was like a really frustrating thing to just constantly hear that, because I was like, I'm Luke. I don't care about Star Wars, man. It kind of turned me off. Yeah, Luke lore. Yeah. Who's your daddy? Yeah. It was just weird. Now it's like, whatever. If you want to be my daddy, great. Twist my arm. CZ James, New Game Plus was already added with the latest patch, by the way. Oh, do you mean to Stellar Blade? They already added it? I would have thought they would have told reviewers about that, but I mean, if they already added it, that's crazy. That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, I mean, for this, I'm like, based on that review, he just described that the stuff I cared about with the game is really good. And so I'm like, okay. I wasn't probably ever going to try to 100% it. I wasn't ever going to try to grind all the side quests or anything. I might do some, specifically like the ones that people are recommending. But especially if he's saying like the gold isn't that useful in the late game, so it's not really worth grinding for. To me, that would imply that they may be worse designing it around you not engaging with all of the side content. So, did you see the hard R controversy in Stellar Blade? No. What is the hard R controversy with Stellar Blade? I saw that trending on Twitter or X, but I thought it was just a reference to that Linus Tech Tips clip where he was on the podcast and he's like, yeah, I used to use the hard R all the time because I thought it was funny. And they're all like, what? You what? And he's like, he thought they meant a different word than the N word with a hard R. Dude almost canceled himself on a podcast just casually. It was pretty funny. Yeah, that clip is priceless because it's just like such a pure understanding. And you watch everybody, you can like hear people shuffling and running around trying to figure out what the hell to do. Cause like our boss is gonna get our whole company shut down saying this stuff. And then it just turns out he misunderstood what it meant, which is pretty funny. Pretty funny. There's graffiti that said hard next to a store called R. Oh. Yeah, if that's if that's the controversy, then yeah, that's pretty freaking stupid. Hold on. So I just pulled this up. Who snitched on Stellar Blade? Hard R in the screenshot is so random and only a milquetoast gaming journalist could have been so offended to demand Sony take it down. They are the only ones who had access to the game, and IGN credits the photo to themselves. The R shop references Roxanne, who's one of the game's information brokers. The hard graffiti, meanwhile, can be found in numerous areas throughout the game. In a statement released to IGN, PlayStation said the developers shipped up had no intention of creating offensive artwork, promising to remove it as part of their day one patch. Yeah, it looks random to me. And aren't the developers like Japanese? Dude, it's just Lance McDonald, an influential Souls player, seems to have been the source of the Stellar Blade hard R image picked up by journalists and censored by Sony. I have no idea why he has blocked me, never interacted with him. Yeah, and they've replaced it into this. Dude, it's just... it's... I almost feel bad for people that go through life like that. Like, you're just looking for things to be upset about everywhere. So you just see it in the shadows. Like, you see... It almost creates like a psychosis of offense, where you're just looking for things to freak out about all the time. Like there was one, you guys know I used to do plays and musicals and stuff a lot, mostly before COVID. After COVID, haven't really done much. But there was one person that was in a production that I did, and since they've like, I don't know what they're doing, but they've pretty much talked themselves out of work in the local industry because it's just, they're Korean. Oh, they're Korean. Yeah, I don't know. Well, my point with bringing that up was like, I like, do they even speak? Like, was this the localization team? Is the Korean version of the game that they're working on, does that even translate the same way? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Where like it might be offensive to some people in the US, but that graffiti in Korean might not translate the same way, you know? But this person like basically pissed off so many people or drove so many people crazy that they got themselves booted out of the local industry because they were just constantly offended about absolutely everything. Like one time I remember we were all out at like a bar after a rehearsal or performance or whatever it was, and somebody asked like something about the bartender. He was like a dude with a big beard or something. And they asked like, oh, can you get their attention? You know, somebody at the bar said, can you get their attention? I want to order something else. Like they said their, like they. And then they're like, well, you really shouldn't assume anybody's gender and you really don't know how they might identify in this instance and everything. It's like, his name is Dave. I just ordered drinks from him and like we talked brief, like you're just looking for things, like you're trying to get offended on other people's behalf. It just drives me crazy. Like and as a result, like nobody wanted to be like, can you chill out, please? Can you just take a chill pill? But as a result, nobody had the energy to deal with that person. So they now don't get like cast in anything. They don't get hired by anybody because nobody has the energy or more mental fortitude to put up with it. It's like, if you are personally offended about something, okay, you're offended about that thing. Okay. Yeah, we all have a right to be offended about certain things. But being offended on other people's behalves is where I'm like, can we chill? Like, maybe you're offended too, but you're being offended for other people's sake. Like if somebody in chat gets offended on my behalf, I'm going to be like, no, like stop. I'm good. Please stop. It's your boy Jay too. I'm sorry, I'm just now seeing this pop up, my friend, because we were doing that review reaction. But it's your boy Jay, too. Just subbed at tier 3 on Twitch. Gee whiz. Thank you, my friend. Daddy chill. Appreciate you, my friend. And Sean, 5 gifted memberships. My goodness, thank you. Sean, we got the package and everything. I think Ori and Lockie will be able to fit into those football uniforms probably by the end of the summer. So once they do that, maybe I'll have them come on stream and they'll show it off. It's pretty freaking cute. They got the whole Celtics uniform and everything. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I'm pretty excited. What are you meant to say? Can you get that entity's attention? I don't even know what, like, if there is an answer of what you should say. I think it's just like you're supposed to kind of shut up about it and not say anything. But it's just, there's no right answer. Anyway, all of this to say with Stellar Blade, it looks to me exactly like what I was hoping it is, which is a game that is solid with combat, has a really awesome gameplay loop. And while the side quests might not be that great, while the story might not be that compelling, who cares? Who cares? Like that, I wasn't playing the game for that reason. So that's what I'm looking for. So I'm unbothered. As for whether I'll do any videos or coverage of the game beyond this, I really don't know. We'll probably talk about it on stream, but I have found that even when I talk positively about the game, the people that like the game and are the biggest stands for it are still like toxic with the whole thing because you're not simping hard enough. And for that, I'm good. I'm good. You know, I'm good. Brandon, thank you for the $4.99. Luke, we're dying over here for a member only stream soon. Run some Dragons Dogma or just draw in MS Paint. We will be there. Yeah, no, that's good to hear. My main thing has been trying to figure out how to do it for Twitch subs as well. And I like, cause I want to do like either a YouTube member stream and then a Twitch sub only stream or like some sort of co-stream with the two. I don't really know what the best route will be. But I agree. We need to do more of that. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no major game after this for a while. Well, I can't be too specific, but we're about to get a number of most likely larger reveals. So I fully expect in the next month or so, you will hear about a lot of games kind of out of nowhere, and also some not really out of nowhere. In the lead up to like Summer Games Fest and all of the other events that go on in the summer. So I fully expect that we start to hear some more stuff in the next few weeks. So I think there will be plenty to talk about. I just inhaled my own throat. Speaking of plenty to talk about, let's shift gears after that Sean Dada Pog of 5 gifted memberships. Welcome everybody, by the way, to the Red Flag Army if you just got a membership. So spill the beans. No, not. I might slip up because I slip up a lot, but to be clear, I don't know anything like specific of, yeah, on this day, we're going to reveal this or that. What I'm saying is in years past, there's been patterns of companies that reveal certain things at certain times in the lead up to the summer. And they do it every single year in the exact same way. And so I think it's pretty fair to say that things are going to be revealed in similar ways this time around. That would be my guess. Very rarely do you have companies like Xbox, Ubisoft, EA, very rarely do you have them just say nothing and then do an event in the summer and then reveal it. Typically, they might drop like a splash screen. They might do a wallpaper release of like, look, we're working on this game and we're going to reveal it this summer. Stuff like that. This summer, I expect that we're going to see stuff, not just like AC Red, of course, but I think we'll also see more for like Star Wars Outlaws. We'll see more for Dragon Age, Dreadwolf. I think we're finally going to see that. I'm not so sure about GTA. I don't think we'll probably see that. Hellblade 2 launches in the next few weeks. You're right. Hellblade 2 right now is just, it's in a weird spot. The marketing's been a little strange. I agree. It's odd that nobody's talking about it. Yeah, Indiana Jones. I think we'll see stuff for Indiana Jones as well. We should see a reveal of Shattered Space, the DLC for Starfield. So we should see that. So there should be lots of stuff happening this summer and in May leading up to that. That's my expectation. But time will tell. But yeah, Avowed. Yeah, I keep forgetting about Avowed. It seems like everybody else is too. But anyway. With this, let's talk about this. So speaking of other things we know, news segment. One of the games I get asked about a lot because people assume that I have like super secret inside knowledge is Assassin's Creed codenamed Hexe. And this is because I cover a lot of Assassin's Creed stuff. I work with Ubisoft on different projects. And I know people over there. So people are always like, oh, do you have any cool information? I don't. This game is still a good ways off. I don't have any cool information, but other people do. So there's been an article posted by the one and only Tom Henderson over on Insider Gaming. I just accidentally closed the tab I had pulled up that had this. There we go. Boo, 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 boo. And he's doing some reporting on Assassin's Creed codename Hexe. And this is the game that's coming after Assassin's Creed Red, probably in the 2026 time frame. So we get Red this year in 2024, and then this won't come out for another 2 years after that. So there's some more information. Prior to this article, there was some information out, not a ton, but Rhino the Bouncer put some of this together. If you don't follow Rhino, does a bunch of coverage of different things, especially like, PS5, Assassin's Creed Tomb Raider stuff. But these were rumors and leaks related to this. And most of this I have all heard about. So none of this is that shocking. Some of it I can provide a little bit more specificity on. But in general, this is a collection of statements made by Ubisoft executives or developers over time. So they've said it's the darkest Assassin's Creed game ever. That's true. Basically, this is this is a game that's expected to be set in Central Europe in the 16th century, focusing on the pivotal point in history revolving around mass hysteria about witchcraft that gripped the continent, leading to witch trials where 80,000 people were executed, according to Bloomberg and Tom Henderson. And this is something that we pretty much know for a fact, that Hexe is set during this time period in this location, and it's expected to be very dark and gritty. And it's also expected to be a little less... It's not going to be the same open world RPG that you might be accustomed to recently. It's expected to be much more linear than anything else. So beyond this, it's expected to have a female lead and protagonist, not a dual protagonist. It's expected to be a single female character named Elsa, who will let it go. I couldn't think of any other jokes or puns about Frozen, so that's it. Anyway, so it's expected to have one female protagonist. That's it. Expected to be coming in 2026 now. 2025 was not that seriously on the table as far as I'm aware. I think it was always around 2026, but 2025 was kind of the hopeful point. This was posted back in March, by the way, but I think it's been 2026 for a while. They have confirmed it. Yeah, they dropped a little sort of trailer, teaser, whatever thing. They've called it very different upcoming flagship Assassin's Creed title, according to Marc-Alexis Cote, which is one of the head honchos over at Ubisoft involved with it. And they've also said, Yara Tabara has said that it quote, features strong feminine energy. I'm not really sure what that means. I mean, as a female protagonist is concerned, I would imagine it's primarily because like this is set in a period of time when women were being rounded up and burned at the stake as witches, and you're going to be playing as a female who, according to some things we're about to talk about, most likely is going to have some supernatural abilities. So chances are the player character is going to be accused of being a witch at one point, and you're going to see and hear some stuff that it's probably pretty intense. So I'm sure thematically it's going to be about, fighting the patriarchy that's trying to burn you at the stake, which honestly, of all the patriarchies to fight, that's probably the most fair. Yeah, they're actually trying to burn you at the stake. What was it in Monty Python? It's like you weigh the two, and if the witch weighs more than a duck, she's a witch. I think that's what it was. It's been a minute since I watched Monty Python, but I think that's what it was. It's been a minute. She turned me into a newt. I got better. Sarge NBC, thank you. 5 gifted as well. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. Thank you. But yeah, I mean, that's something that they've described. I don't really know what that means, but we can only speculate. As for this, written by franchise veteran narrative director Darby McDevitt, who's behind some of the best written games in the franchise. And if you don't know Darby, the one and only Mr. Darby McDevitt, has worked on Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Assassin's Creed Unity as a co-writer, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, Assassin's Creed 2 Discovery, Assassin's Creed Bloodline, The Sims 2 on the DS, Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I didn't actually know this. Oh, that's cool. Dude, I loved this movie growing up. I loved it. This is the game, the 2005 game, but I freaking loved the movie back when it launched. The Herbs, Sims in the City, Lord of the Rings, The Third Age. So, like, worked on a lot. Won Best Narrative for Valhalla in 2021 from the Canadian Game Awards. Won for Black Flag in 2013 for Best Writing. So, Valhalla, I will agree. The individual stories, there were some really good individual stories in Valhalla. My problem was that there were way too many. They were paced poorly, and it was just generally a game about quantity over quality, I think, which in the context of their broader strategy, I understand why they did it that way, because they basically weren't going to have an Assassin's Creed game for years. So they wanted a game that would sort of stand the test of time and have enough content to keep people engaged. But I just didn't like how it was paced out and everything. But the writing itself was good. So, I mean, I think Darby deserves some credit for that. And to hear that Darby is returning to work on this project is also very encouraging, because that's something that's good. To have talent from previous entries, including like Black Flag, returning to this is encouraging. Developed by Ubisoft Montreal, the franchise's main studio since 2007. In case you're not too familiar with Ubisoft Montreal is the iconic studio with the big brick building you've probably seen in all like their promotional stuff. It's actually called the Peck Building. It housed the John W. Peck Shirt and Clothing Factory. And in 1997, it became Ubisoft headquarters, or Montreal headquarters, which is just kind of fun. But it's a massive, massive studio, more than 4,000 employees. Massive studio. And they've done a lot of work. I mean, they've done, of course, Roller Champions. Ooh, baby. They've worked on Assassin's Creed. They've worked on For Honor. They've worked on Far Cry, Prince of Persia, Rainbow Six. Like, this studio touches everything. So don't think of Ubisoft Montreal as like one team. It's a massive company headquarters, basically, in Montreal that houses a bunch of smaller teams that work on these games. The largest of which is working on Assassin's Creed stuff. But this is the team specifically that did like Valhalla. They also worked on Black Flag and those games. So beyond this, they go on. It's designed to leave a lasting mark on the franchise. Again, don't really know what that means. I think they'd probably say that about every one of their releases, so that doesn't mean much to me. One of the first two games to launch on Assassin's Creed Infinity platform, the other being Red. It's true, so that's going to be the second release there. Launching after Mirage, which we know. At this point, themes revolve around witchcraft based on the name Hex, or Hexe, meaning witch in German, derived from Old German Hagazusa. The imagery shown in the teaser of the pentagram official logo and art, blah, blah, blah. And then he also, Reno, offers some personal speculation. Game may likely involve alchemy and science confuses magic, plus the fabled Philosopher's Stone, which may potentially be technology of the first civilization, a prominent ancient faction in the game. Judging by Yara Tabaro's statement, the game will likely feature the series' first solo female protagonist in a mainline game, which at this point is pretty much confirmed. The specific writing and reporting from Tom, the one and only Tom Henderson, who you guys might recognize. Tom has done a ton of reporting. Tom comes around to stream every once in a while and hangs out. So Tom is an OG and is somebody that doesn't just make stuff up. He reports stuff that, as far as I'm aware, is pretty much always confirmed to be true. I can't think of a time when he's reported on something that's been demonstrated to be false. So time and time again, the reporting ends up being accurate. So also, thank you, Wombatter, for gifting 2 tier 1 subs to the Twitch community over there. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, Gwelder and Audi719 or welcome to the sub club. Appreciate you, Wombatter. Thank you. Brandon, she's going to be a witch who gets recruited by the Brotherhood. She's going to be the most powerful assassin, blah, blah, blah. I bet her mom will be the bad guy, calling it now. Dude, that's actually a pretty safe bet. Yeah, no, that actually is a safe bet. Or maybe she'll be like an orphan, and then she'll have like an adopted mother figure, kind of like what's her name in Mirage, the lady that sounds like she swallowed a bunch of gravel. I can't remember her name right now. She played like Anna in or Anna, whatever it is, in Overwatch. I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, that's very, very possible. Details on Assassin's Creed Hexe are few and far between. Officially, there's the series vice president and executive producer Marc-Alexis Cortet alluding that the game will be different from past entries and developed by Ubisoft Montreal. From the game's official tease, we know that it will lean heavily into witchcraft, with the game rumored to be set in Central Europe during the 16th century Holy Roman Empire. Insider Gaming understands that the game is still in a relatively early stage of development and is expected to be released in 2026 on the Infinity platform. Hexe is understood to be a more linear experience compared to its predecessor, with some elements of open world exploration somewhat akin to the earlier Assassin's Creed games. As already reported by Insider Gaming, Hexe is poised to have a single female protagonist currently named Elsa, who has some supernatural abilities. Oh baby. Probably granted from like Isu powers. She touches an apple of Eden or something and like all of a sudden can do your taxes in 3 minutes instead of a month. I don't know. She'll probably have some sort of supernatural ability, but it's gonna lean, I have no doubt, more in the fantasy side of things, which honestly would be a little funny if like the whole thing is, look how bad this like patriarchal society is for burning women at the stake thinking they're witches, and then she comes along and it is like unironically a witch that has magical abilities. That would be a little funny. I wonder if the irony is lost on them, but who knows? We'll see. While details on all of her abilities are unclear, footage sent to Insider Gaming under the condition that it not go public shows off one of those abilities. In the footage, Elsa is seemingly being hunted by 16th century German soldiers. Image of what the soldiers look like can be found here. And this is like your standard floofy, I don't know how else to describe them, floofy, colorful, medieval, Renaissance soldiers. So she's being chased by those people, and she uses a spell to possess a nearby cat. The player then controls the cat and uses it to distract the soldiers by knocking over a glass bottle, which smashes on the ground and diverts the soldiers' attention. The gameplay provided to Insider Gaming depicts a dark and gloomy setting in the cobbled streets of the city, which setting-wise, I love it. It's a cool concept also to be able to possess a cat. Like I would imagine it's a black cat, and then walk in front of soldiers, freak them out, and then knock something over to distract them. That's super, super cool. It's not really Assassin's Creed related, but you know, it could still be cool. My stance at this point, everybody's like, they should just not even call it Assassin's Creed at this point. It has nothing to do with Assassin's Creed other than like really like we're stretching, you know, narrative tie-ins. My stance is just that, like, I understand why they're still calling it Assassin's Creed. When you put the AC label on something, it's going to sell better than when it's not on the box. I get it. So at this point, it's just kind of like understood that, yeah, this is very, very different from what we used to do, but just like smile and nod and put up with it. Ubisoft's goal is to now have a bunch of different games that release with all different themes and stuff. They'll have co-op games. They'll let the team that did Mirage do another old school Assassin's Creed game. So they're going to give you those fixes. But the key thing I think to understand as an Assassin's Creed fan is that not every game is being catered to you. Some of the stuff they're going to do, like they're going to do a co-op game and they're going to do like a big multiplayer game eventually. Those games are probably not going to appeal to me. I won't be that interested in them, but they're not trying to. And on the one hand, that can be frustrating, but also I appreciate them not trying to make every annual release catered to absolutely everybody in a way that makes it just totally unremarkable in everything that it does. So I'm hopeful that them focusing on smaller groups of players and specializing a little bit more will lead to better games, but time will tell, I think. hasn't magic been around the whole series? So yeah, but it's like, it's always framed around this like Isu technology where it's like, it is magical, but it's also not. It's supposed to be part of like the first civilization's capability. Like, it's messy, but like straight up just casting spells is something that is not really a mainstay of the series. I mean, granted, like there's a basically magical spear in Odyssey. There's a lot of sort of magical, straight up fantasy stuff in there. So it's something you just kind of turn your brain off to. I know some hardcore fans will be upset about it, but a lot of other people are just like, whatever. Yeah, Pieces of Eden. Disco Cobra, gee whiz Willikers, thank you for the $50 super chat. My goodness. I thought that Ninja Assassin's Creed was next to be released. It is. So that's coming out this year. This is not coming out till 2026. I'm not really into AC games. Only played AC2, never went further. How about these or those Gears of War rumors? Possibly God of War. Gears of War 6 announced at an event in June. I'm hoping for a collection of the OG games. Yeah, it's at this point, I think it's pretty much locked in that we will see something from the Coalition in June. Maybe even sooner. But I would personally, I would put a good amount of money on that happening. It times out well. We know they're working on stuff. Multiple insiders have said that they expect to see them there. So I fully expect that. I don't have any direct knowledge of that. I don't know for a fact if we're seeing that, but I would put a good chunk of change on it happening. It just makes too much sense at this point. And the fact that insiders that have very good track records are saying that it's going to happen, I think says it's probably going to happen. Beyond this, sources have also outlined that the plan is to have a fear system in the game inspired by the Assassin's Creed Syndicate Jack the Ripper DLC. While the exact details of the system are unknown, it isn't difficult to see how this system, or at least a version of it, can be easily implemented into Hexe. The 16th century witch trials saw up to 80,000 suspected witches executed between 1500 and 1660. So some form of fear system makes sense for the setting. And basically, I mean, they include this clip here. You can see they have this outlined. Whoops, what did I press? I pressed something and it closed the window, and okay, now we're back. Okay, I don't know what happened. But like, look at this. So they have this pause so we can pull it up. You see Jack's, in case you never played the DLC, Jack's terror over London is based on his use of fear. One of Jack's fear tools is the brutal takedown. Performing a brutal takedown to its bitter end will frighten any opponent witnessing it. Hold X in the same conditions as a classic assassination to start a brutal takedown. Follow the instructions to complete it. And then they do a little demonstration of it. So you can do this and do the brutal takedown. It causes fear to rise in the city. Yeah, that's pretty brutal. It's a little bit of overkill. Dude's turning him into like, ooh, golly. Ooh. And so just like that, boom. Boom. And then they show some more fear. Enemies react to the Ripper's terror in 3 states: calm, anxious, or frightened. Why is it cropped now? What happened? Is it fully cropped? I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what it's doing. Hold on. Stretch. That's really weird. I don't know why it did that. I don't know why I did that. That's weird. But they say, so 3 different states. Fear actions make enemies anxious and then frightened. You can affect an enemy's fear state with fear tools such as the death scream or spikes. So if they're using a system like this, what it could be is basically like if you're playing as the protagonist and the people in the city fear that you could be a witch, you could use different tools and stuff to make them freak out and behave more irrationally, thinking you are a witch, either by using straight up magic or by using some sort of tool to trick them into thinking you're a witch. And that could lead to some more interesting encounters where you could use that to your advantage. It's a cool concept, very different, very unique, where it's almost like a slight alteration of your typical notoriety system in a game where you commit crimes and stuff and it causes the police to become more aware and alert and watch out for you. But this time it would be behaviors specifically that could be upsetting or induce fear in people that you could use to kind of work that tally up. So it's a cool concept. It's a cool concept. And at its core, it's just different. I fully expect this is a game that people are going to probably see and go like, well, what's this have to do with Assassin's Creed? I get it. But that doesn't, again, mean that it's necessarily a bad game. It just might be a bad Assassin's Creed game related to old school things. But I mean, I've been saying that this was going to be a problem since Mirage came out, because Mirage was like this old school game that was taking inspiration from old school Assassin's Creed games. And the people that liked those games really liked Mirage, thought it was pretty good, and had a good time with it. But I said from the moment we got it, when we get the next Assassin's Creed games that go back to like the open world thing and the RPG stuff, and then this, which is going to be more of a linear horror adventure game, each time it releases, people are going to be like, wow, they've lost their way since Mirage. Mirage was so much better. Just totally unaware that they're going to do another Mirage-like game. They're just not trying to appeal to everybody at the same time, which is kind of the important thing to remember. They say, while these are early details on the game, it's not hard to see why Marc-Alexis Cote described the title as, quote, a different type of game to IGN in late 2022. He continued, quote, not everything has to be a 150-hour RPG, right? To bring more diversity to the places we choose to visit and to how we choose to represent those periods. And it basically just seems like Ubisoft has realized they don't have to do Valhalla for every single location they visit. Players can still buy games and enjoy games if they're a little bit smaller in scope, if they're not trying to be the biggest, craziest thing ever. And for me, I'm glad to hear that. You know, I think we've kind of come off of a trend where every studio was trying to do the 100-hour game, and every studio was trying to give you the most bang for your buck for your dollar, and players just got burnt out and also like stopped buying games because they were too big. And in order to create those bigger games, studios spent more money developing them. And so they spent more money, people started buying them less, and so now they're going to just swing the opposite way. So I fully expect the meta for the next like 5 years is probably going to be a lot of smaller, yet still full priced games that are probably like 10 to 15 hours, maybe 10 to 20 hours. And I think that's going to return as sort of the meta for a lot of these bigger companies. Probably high production value stuff, but I don't think we're going to see a ton of like big 50, 60, 70 hour RPGs dropping all the time. They're just too expensive to make nowadays. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, Hexe seems to be, at the very least, a very different type of game than what they're currently doing. They're not trying to do a big open world with it, which I can appreciate. They're not trying to do a big RPG with it, which I can appreciate. They're trying to do something a little bit more lean and mean and a little bit darker. And time will tell how it pans out, if it actually ends up being something compelling. But at the very least, they're trying to do something different, which is refreshing to me, at the very least. Whether it ends up being good is another question, but at least they're trying to do something different. So the new meta is Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Yeah, I mean, hopefully not for just live service, or hopefully it's just for crappy live service games. But yeah, I think a lot of games are going to start to try to shift towards that like 10 to 20 hour range, which for a while was pretty standard. Like a lot of older school games that were very, very highly praised were not very long. And, you know, like BioShock Infinite is like 11 and a half hours long. Even with side content, it's 16 hours long. Like, they're not long games, but they're beloved. People really cherish them. But nowadays, people expect for a full price AAA game, you get 4 times this amount or 3 times this amount. And I think a lot of these publishers are seeing that a lot of people are not buying games specifically because they think they're going to be too long, and they're going to wait till they get it on sale and when they have time and finish the games they're currently playing. So I think you're going to see a lot more games around this size in the next like 5-10 years than anything else. That's my guess. Ezio does know a thing or two about killing popes. Sure does. One might even say he's an expert. Oh, man. Okay.
Hey, everyone.
Whoops. Hey, everyone. Should we do this? Okay, I guess that's a sign. That's a sign. We should just pull this up. Okay, so Unreal Engine 5.4 is officially out. It's officially out. Douglas, thank you. Fan from the Philippines. That's awesome. Thank you. But isn't this sending it down the COD route? Well, I mean, Assassin's Creed Infinity is going to be a platform from which you can launch games. So it's unclear exactly how it'll play out, but from what it sounds like, it'll be like the COD HQ or like Fortnite, where you boot into the one app, and then from the app, you can select which game mode basically you want to go into. But instead of like game modes, like in COD selecting multiplayer or Warzone or whatever, or in Fortnite, no build, build mode, creative mode, Lego mode, whatever, you're going to be selecting Assassin's Creed Hexe, Assassin's Creed Red, Assassin's Creed, maybe they bring Syndicate to it, you know, stuff like that. So it's not to say every game is going to be a full-on live service, but I think every one of their games will feature live service elements, unfortunately. They've already talked about how Assassin's Creed Infinity is going to introduce like mini battle passes and stuff where there's like daily challenges to complete to unlock stuff. And so their goal is to get you to basically play these games day in, day out. That's their hope. So we'll see if it works. I'm not overly confident, but they seem confident. They've spent a lot of time and money working on it. So yeah. DRM on top of DRM. Yeah, I mean, that's basically, I think, one of the main goals. I don't know what the numbers, I'm sure they have a way of tracking it, but I don't know what the numbers are like for piracy with regards to Assassin's Creed games. I would imagine it's pretty high, especially sentiment towards Ubisoft's really low right now, but a lot of people still like playing Assassin's Creed games. I would guess piracy is pretty high for them. So if they can find a way to just lock it in, of course they're going to try to tackle that. And they're going to, I mean, I've told you guys my cynical prediction for months at this point has been that I think one of the reasons these studios are going to get really giddy about using AI in their games is because they can force online connections. And if you don't have an online connection, even if you were to somehow pirate the game, like NPC interactions wouldn't work because it requires like tie-ins to OpenAI stuff to process it. Like I fully expect they're going to do all sorts of crap like that. And maybe I'm being overly cynical, but I think it just makes too much sense for these companies to be like, so you're telling me there's a way that we could make a game system that shows really well, where you can just like have a conversation with an NPC and they respond to you realistically. And also we can force them to be online 24/7 whenever they're playing the game. And we could potentially even charge a monthly subscription for it. Ooh. That gets these billionaire and multimillionaire executives pretty giddy, I'll tell you what. So I fully expect they're going to try something like that. It's like a year ago, they were talking about how they're going to introduce NFTs into all of their games. You really think that they just forgot about that? You really think that they're just like not going to try to do anything else greedy and slimy? No, they're going to look for everything. And anything they can use to tie into their games. But anyway, new segment. Okay, so Assassins. Let me try that again. New segment. Unreal Engine 5.4 official features overview. This just dropped because they are releasing Unreal Engine 5.4. They've released it to developers and they're showcasing some of what this engine can do. If you're not familiar with Unreal Engine 5.4, it's crazy. They did the little reveal where they showcased that Rise of Hydra trailer that was crazy. And basically this thing just seems to be cutting edge. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Just watch this. Let's take this in and appreciate what they're able to do now.
Hey everyone, Unreal Engine 5.4 is here. Check out some of the highlights. First up, UE 5.4 has powerful new tools for setting up and animating characters directly in the editor. With Modular Control Rig, you can build animation rigs from understandable parts instead of complex granular graphs.
Okay, I've tried plenty of game engines, and I've tried rigging stuff, and in the past when I was really into 3D modeling and stuff, I actually like hand rigged many models and stuff. And so to see them literally just dragging and dropping stuff onto rigs and modeling it, moving it, rigging it is the word I was looking for, is just wild. Like, this is crazy smooth. What they just did in like 3 seconds would, like, just a few years ago have taken you hours and hours to do. It's crazy.
Here you can see us setting up a leg in just a few steps.
Steps. No, okay, moving on.
Automatic retargeting makes it faster and easier to get great results when using bipedal character animation of known skeletal types. The skeleton editor is now more performant and offers more functionality. There's also a suite of new functions that make the deformer graph more accessible. For animation authoring, we've focused on making our tools more intuitive and robust while streamlining workflows. Case in point, animation-friendly gizmos means you can quickly and easily pose characters using just the middle mouse button. And finally, Sequencer gets a significant makeover with better readability and improved usability, including a new layered control rigs feature. Motion matching is...
That's crazy, dude. It's crazy. Like, this is one of the reasons why CDPR wanted to move to Unreal Engine is, for one, they don't have to stress about engine upgrades or tweaking stuff. They can just let Unreal and their team of engineers handle all of it, which is great. And they can provide feedback and all that, but they don't need to stress too much about the ins and outs of the daily maintenance of this stuff. And beyond that, like, if you've ever tried to use Unreal stuff, like, it's just so freaking fast. It's very streamlined. And with a lot of tools, when things are streamlined and very easy to just implement quickly, it leads to back-end issues or issues with optimization, which has been a problem for Unreal Engine games in the past, where they were able to throw it together pretty quickly, but they run into issues with how quickly everything could run. You run into problems of like stuttering or shader compilation issues and all sorts of stuff like we've seen with many, many games. And those are things they're trying to remedy, certainly, and it's still a concern, but it just lets you work so freaking fast. It's ridiculous.
Now more robust, performant, and memory scalable. Now production ready, this toolkit is used to select and transition animation clips at runtime by searching a database of captured animation, using the current motion information of the character in the game as the key. There's also a suite of debugging tools that gives visibility into its inner workings.
Again, I remember seeing a clip of Naughty Dog's animation blending tech like a decade ago, and it was jaw-dropping back then. Like, it was stunning, and now it's just readily available. Like, that competitive edge that Naughty Dog had that no other studio really had at all back with like Uncharted 4. Now Unreal Engine just releases it to everybody. Like, it's ridiculous. It's crazy.
We've invested significant effort into improving rendering performance in UE 5.4. This includes refactoring the systems to enable a greater degree of parallelization, adding GPU instance culling to hardware ray tracing, optimizing shader compilation, and more. Nanite continues to receive enhancements, starting with a new tessellation feature that enables fine details, such as cracks and bumps, to be added at render time without altering the original mesh. Plus, the addition of software variable rate shading via Nanite compute materials brings substantial performance gains. Temporal Super Resolution has received stability and performance enhancements to ensure predictable output regardless of the target platform.
it's just, even the cloth physics. Look at the, I guess it's leather or pleather physics, but look at the, okay, don't be a perv. I'm going to zoom in here, okay? Look at how this realistically deforms as he's walking. Like, it's crazy, dude. This is running in real time in a video game. Granted, it's a super high production value model, and they've, I'm sure, done a lot of hand rigging for this type of thing, but it's crazy how this is working. Like, it's probably not simulated, it's probably rigged, but still, it looks fantastic.
Enhancements to ensure predictable output regardless of the target platform. And finally, Movie Render Graph, a major update to the Movie Render queue, enables you to set up render layers with a node-based architecture. Next up, UE 5.4 introduces a new motion design mode that's been developed in conjunction with leading broadcasters. It's equipped with specialized tools for authoring complex 2D motion graphics, including 3D shapes, cloners, effectors, modifiers, animators, and more. In this release, the virtual camera tool is now supported on Android as well as iOS. VCam workflows are also now fully supported in Unreal Engine on macOS.
Just look at that. That's crazy. Instead of like hand rigging camera movements and stuff, you just get your phone or a tablet. You just move it around and do it. Like, that's how they shot like all of the stuff for God of War. The Last of Us does the same thing, where they'll actually like have a motion tracked camera rig, and then they have the director of photography go in there and actually in real time move the camera and pose things around it. And they just casually do it for like your phone, whatever. It's crazy.
On the VR scouting front, we've introduced a new, fully customizable toolkit that utilizes XR Creative Framework to support open XR HMDs such as Oculus and Valve Index. For IC VFX, we've added depth of field compensation for in-display. Using the real world's camera position and lens parameters, it renders a corrected depth of field in Unreal Engine on the LED wall to compensate for the additional blurring introduced by the physical lens.
Yeah, if you've not, okay, this breaks my brain. If you've not seen this, what show was it? Was it Halo that did this a lot? There was a show that did this a lot, Mandalorian maybe. But basically they have these gigantic like LED walls that are just massive, super high resolution, whatever. And what they do is they run Unreal Engine synced with the camera movements, and they render that behind the individuals that are acting. And Mandalorian, yeah, the volume. Like, it's so freaking cool. Let me show you. The volume. Mandalorian. Like, this thing's just crazy.
While filming,
so it looks really good. You might think that this is all just CGI, and as they say, like,
imagining how VFX artists would make this planet look once filming had ended. The Mandalorian is one of the first major productions to choose LED walls over green screens, and the benefits for the actors are just the tip of the iceberg.
yeah.
LED walls make the lighting better, filming smoother, and in certain cases cost a lot less than using green screens. But to understand why the team behind The Mandalorian chose these LED screens, we have to understand just how they work.
So, like, look at that. It's an actual LED wall. The actor sees where he's walking. He sees all this, and they film it, sync it to the camera movements.
The team behind The Mandalorian chose these LED screens, we have to understand just how they work. Mandalorian showrunner Jon Favreau revolutionized virtual production while directing The Lion King and The Jungle Book. However, the process for these two remakes still relied heavily on blue screen and post-production work. For The Mandalorian, LED wall technology seemed like the next logical step, given the show's production budget and time frame. Now,
the other nice thing about this is that it's all handled like in one step. You basically cut out the step of having to remove the blue screen layers and then go back in and reconstruct the scenes. All of that is streamlined because it's all just happening in real time. It's the same reason why like I benefit from having everything set up through my streaming computer, because when I film all of this stuff for main channel videos, for live stream clips, whatever, it's all handled in the same software, all the same like OBS instances. So for me, I don't have to film to an SD card, pull the SD card out, load it into the computer, process it in, sync the audio. I used to film videos like that, and it was extremely tedious. Now I can film things just as fast as doing like a live stream clip because it's all tied into the same set of tools and systems. And this is a similar thing where it just streamlines everything. It's still restrictive, certainly. There's some things like I can't do with this setup that I could do doing it the other way, where like I can't do really specific color grading. I can't do all of that stuff. But the benefits for faster production and things like that and ease of use benefit me more than those other things would benefit.
Maybe thinking, this isn't so new. I've seen something like this before. And you're right, kind of. The predecessor to what we see on The Mandalorian is a driving scene like this one from Dr. No. You've got the actor in the car, and behind them, a screen with footage of the road they've travelled. But the technology was limited. Say you want to move the camera angle during the scene. That projected footage can't move with the camera. But by using Unreal Engine, tech borrowed from the video game field, that problem is solved. Artists can create a photorealistic 3D background that moves strictly with the camera's field of view, known as the frustum. So if the camera swings around and changes angles, the background shifts in precisely the same way. This allows motion-tracked cameras to execute traditional cinematography techniques within the virtual set, achieving cinematic movements like the parallax effect, where an object in the foreground moves at a different speed than the background, amplifies the illusion of filming at an actual location.
It's crazy. For the actors, it's probably weird because like you're standing in a 10-foot deep space by 30 feet, can't move too much, and to you just see like the screen behind you changing and shifting as they move the camera, but the final product through the camera is crazy.
Now that LED screens can move with the camera's eye, virtual sets can solve a bunch of green screen problems. The biggest one probably being lighting.
We've all seen movies, TV shows where the lighting on the day didn't necessarily match the post-production work that was added many, many months later.
That's Richard Bluff, Industrial Light and Magic's VFX supervisor for The Mandalorian. He says lighting is one of the key benefits of working with virtual sets. The light coming from the LEDs provide realistic colours and reflections on the actors and props, something you simply can't achieve with green screen. They are also able to completely avoid the problem of spill. To better understand that, we talked to Kim Lebrun.
That's crazy. So this is something that they've actually made improvements on with Unreal Engine as well. Like they've actually improved it to the point where they can realistically alter the depth of field effects as cameras change their focus realistically based on the depth of the scene and stuff. It's wild.
Depth of field compensation for in-display. Using the real world's camera position and lens parameters, it renders a corrected depth of field in Unreal Engine on the LED wall to compensate for the additional blurring introduced by the physical lens. Along with other depth of field enhancements, this dramatically improves the realism and plausibility of LED wall shots. New in this release is Unreal Cloud DDC, a self-hosted cloud storage system for the Unreal Engine-derived data cache. Designed for distributed users and teams, it enables you to efficiently share Unreal Engine cached data across public network connections. Our local DDC also now uses a new server architecture, offering improved data conditioning performance, faster load times in Pi workflows, and other benefits. These are just some of the highlights of the Unreal Engine 5.4. You can find out more about all the new features and download the release on UnrealEngine.com. Enjoy.
It's wild, dude. But one of the downsides of this, perhaps, and it's something we've mentioned before on stream, is that I think because games are getting so easy to put together with some of these tools, and it's easier than ever to achieve cinematic quality, you're going to start to see a lot of like indie games that look fantastic, but that doesn't necessarily translate to the quality of the final product. So I think you're going to start to see a ton of games that are very polished turds, perhaps, where they look graphically stunning, but there's not much else going on. And on the one hand, it's cool that we're at a point where smaller teams can achieve fidelity on this level, but also people are going to have to be pretty diligent to make sure that they're not buying into things just because they look pretty. Because it used to be that, like, if something was really high fidelity, it was probably a pretty good indication that the game itself was going to be, really good. But that's not necessarily a given anymore because now it's pretty easy to get games that look really good. It's not necessarily a given that they're going to be good just because they are shiny, Oh yeah, the photorealistic mod for Cyberpunk. Yeah, we looked at it maybe a few weeks ago on stream. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Do you think Unreal Engine should improve their tech for open worlds, or is that the devs' fault? They have done a number of improvements as far as I'm aware, and it's something that they're hyper aware of. And I'm sure they're making lots of improvements in real time as they work with other big studios like CDPR and others to try and make sure that they are primed for what they need to do. There's no doubt that they have not. There are many shortcomings with the Unreal Engine. It's not a perfect engine. There are difficulties it has with certain situations and workflows and stuff. They're actively trying to improve those. Whether they're improved by the time we get like The Witcher 4 something is up in the air, but yeah. Unreal Engine 5 tech demos are the reasons why kids on the internet say every new game looks like a PS3 game. I mean, if you're referring to Rise of the Ronin, it's because Rise of the Ronin did look like a PS3 game. That's I think fair. But I mean, I agree. I think it is spoiling people for sure, but I think in some cases the frustration and complaints are warranted. In the case of Rise of the Ronin, I mean, that game just looked unacceptably bad for being a full-priced game. I mean, I've shown the Joraptor clip many times, but this is a $70 game in 2024 with a PlayStation Studios logo on it. What? Not only is the lighting not good, the animations are crappy as well, and there's all sorts of artifacting, and it's just a bad looking game. Doesn't mean that the gameplay's bad. It means that graphically and visually the game is way worse than it should be, way worse. Can still be fun to play. The combat can still be good, which it is, but it's just not where I think it needs to be a $70 game. Let's see. Okay. Every Team Ninja game runs and looks bad. It's part of the experience. I don't think they always have, though. I remember Neo, when Neo dropped, Neo 2, those games weren't necessarily on par with their peers on the day, but the gap wasn't this bad. With Rise of the Ronin, well, Neo was maybe 2-3 years behind the competition. This game is a decade behind. This game is way behind. It's pretty ridiculous how bad it looks and runs. It's crazy. I hope they improve it and stuff, but the thing is, when you release a game at $70 and you're under the PlayStation banner, there are certain expectations that people have, and they just you have to live up to those expectations. Otherwise, people will be justifiably upset, I think. Okay. I'll mention this real quick just because it came up. So did any of you guys play, I guess, news segment. Did any of you guys play Alone in the Dark? That game that dropped maybe a couple weeks ago, a few weeks ago. And it was a remake of an old horror game that sort of is a cult classic for some. And the remake came out to like mixed reviews. Some people liked it. Others felt like it was just a kind of soulless remake. Other people thought it was fine, but it just didn't do enough to justify full price. Well, either way, it did not release to positive reviews. It was very, very mixed. And it seems as though the developer is facing a good number of layoffs as well. QA analyst Helen Hansen posted to X that they were getting laid off. You can see this post here. I'll make a better post. You know, it's sad because you see them like very proudly posting that they are getting their first credited role. They released their first game. Everybody's really excited on the day because for us, you know, it's just one game releasing on a day that you may or may not have been interested in. But for some of these people, it represents years of work that they have poured their heart and soul into. And if it doesn't come together and it reviews poorly, you know, they're still proud of it. It just didn't come together in the way that they were hoping it would. But Hansen referred to coworkers that were also laid off. My heart is breaking for myself and my coworkers right now. So it's not super clear how many people were laid off as a result of this. They reached out to Pieces Interactive and THQ Nordic for comment, but as far as I'm aware, haven't heard anything. And it just seems like they didn't meet the expectations or hoped expectations. And so they're facing layoffs as a result, which it's unfortunate that you can have, you know, a game you pour years into, and then if it just doesn't click with players, it doesn't work out too well, everybody loses their jobs. But that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles. It's really uncommon to have a studio survive like a flop. And I don't know if Alone in the Dark was a flop. Either way, I don't think it met expectations, but I don't know if it's been confirmed if it would be so far as a flop. Like a flop is you were expecting 1 million copies and you sold 10,000. That's a flop. If you were expecting 100,000 and you sold 70,000 or 80,000, you didn't live up to expectations, but that's not really a flop as far as at least I would use the term. So I don't know if it's on flop levels, but it just seems like they didn't meet the standard or bar that they were hoping for. Yeah, like the Marvels. So Suicide Squad. Yeah, Suicide Squad, there is no way of describing that other than saying it was a flop. I mean, they spent hundreds of millions of dollars on that game and have 200 concurrent players. Yeah, Immortals of Avium, unfortunately, for that team was a flop. I mean, that was a game that cost $125 million to put together and market. And that game, like, sold maybe like 50,000 copies, maybe 20,000 copies, who knows? But like, it did not sell hardly at all. Which is just too bad. I mean, sometimes you have a game that's fine or decent and it just doesn't connect with players. Players just aren't interested. But it happens. Do you think Rocksteady's still going to exist in a year or two? I think Rocksteady's in a similar position to like BioWare, where they've just had a flop. I don't think they'll necessarily be shuttered or anything. I think they'll be given another chance. At this point, I'm not too confident because the fact that they thought that this game was ready for prime time in the condition and state that it launched at is very concerning, because everybody was like, this is all the content there is? Like, you've been working on this for how many years and this is all we've got? What? You know, I don't know how on earth that thing was put together in the way that it was, but it makes me question the judgment of the executives and leadership. I know some people will be like, but Luke, game development's hard. I get it. Your job is literally to put together a good game that's worth buying, though. It's your job. And as a game reviewer and critic, my job is to tell you if you did a good job. And I'm telling you right now, you did a bad job. In the words of, I think it was Mr. Beans in Fantastic Mr. Fox, you wrote a bad song, PT. In this case, you made a bad song, or you made a bad game, Rocksteady. That's what it is. Okay. Didn't think you were going to get a Fantastic Mr. Fox reference in this stream, did you? Well, there you go. You never know what's going to happen. Oh, baby. Well, it's bogus bunts and beans. One fat, one short, one lean. So I think it was Mr. Beans. Or the Beans guy. Whatever. It's been a minute. But people think 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 is mid. Yeah, I really think, crazily enough, that last year actually did the industry a good amount of harm with how many great games we got. Because a lot of people now have grown accustomed to the idea that if a game is not a 10 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10, it's bad. Or it's mid. And that's just not the case. Like, 7 out of 10 games, by most review standards, are good. 8 out of 10s are good or even great. They're just not amazing or masterpieces or whatever. But we got so many amazing masterpiece level games last year that people now have started to go like, oh, you gave Stellar Blade an 8 out of 10? How dare you? How dare you? I think the game looks awesome. It's like, bro, he said it was great. He said the game was great, and you're wanting to like cancel him? What? But it's because people's expectations are so freaking out of whack. And granted, a lot of this is just people freaking out on Reddit, where everybody freaks out about everything, or Twitter or X. And the thing is, these are not real spaces. There are very vocal minorities. And in the grand context of video games, 500 people or 1,000 people on X freaking out about something represents a drop in the bucket. Like, it's really not that representative of the broader gaming community or the customer base of these games. It's like when people are like, how on earth do these studios keep releasing stuff like this? How does Call of Duty keep releasing $80 skin packages and stuff for games? It's like, because people buy them. Because most of the people that are buying this stuff are not watching videos on this, or not watching streams on this. They're just playing the games, you know? That's that. Wombatter, thank you for the bits. Hey Luke, love your content and chill style. Started watching about a month ago, and you quickly become my go-to channel for anything video game related. Just curious, were you a big fan of the OG BioWare games pre-Andromeda? I mean, for me, most of their biggest games came out like before I was really playing a lot of games. When I was growing up as a kid, I was in a very sheltered household. We didn't play many video games. If we played a video game, it was probably like 5 years old, and we played it on the PS2 or something. So I didn't really have a lot of exposure to their games prior to all of that. So I'm in sort of a unique situation in that regard. But going back and trying those games now, yeah, I would consider myself a fan. But as long as I've been really into gaming, they've been on rocky footing. Because I was getting really into gaming in like probably like 2015, 16, 17, 18. Even back like 2013, 2014, I was playing games, of course, but not like super intensely or anything. I was still in school, so, didn't have a ton of time. Yeah, Kena Bridge of Spirits is good. It is stiff, you're right, but I remember really liking it. I don't know, I don't think I ever finished it. I think I hit a point where I just didn't really know what to do, and there was another game that I had to play, so I just kind of set it to the side, and yeah, I don't know. I don't think I ever finished it, but I remember liking it. I remember thinking it was kind of cool. Daniel Young, thank you for the 12 months. Do you think I could run No West for the Wicked on my computer, which has components that are roughly 9 years old? Love the content. I'm going to tell you honestly, I don't know. I don't think it would run well. And everything I've seen is that it is extremely heavy to run. Even on my computer, it was very, very heavy to run. But I was cranking it and really trying to push it. So I really am not sure. I would say if you're going to try it, like definitely go through Steam within the 2-hour return period. But I would be very cautious. My guess would be probably not, but You never know. Maybe. But thank you for 12 months, a full year. That's crazy. A year. Gee whiz. Reviewers should say if the game is worth the asking price or not. It's just, as a reviewer, you're also in a really tough spot because recommending people wait for a sale is like one of the worst things you can do for a lot of these companies, like, because then you're just sitting on the sidelines waiting for the game to go on sale for underperforming, because typically games will go on sale once they've started underperforming or once they've kind of sputtered out. And so a lot of reviewers that I've spoken to behind the scenes have expressed like restrictions from corporate rules that say like they can't specify too much of those types of things, and say in their reviews like, yeah, this would be worth it at $30 or something, because then that kind of pushes the price down. And a game that, yeah, anyway, it's just tricky. A lot of companies and websites and stuff will have rules for what their reviewers can and can't say in terms of like how they phrase certain things, or the editors will like go in and change it. That's at least my understanding from the few people I've spoken to. Maybe their companies are just weird, but I agree. Like if it's something where it's just like, hey, this is a fine game, but it's not a $70 game, I think it's fair to bring that up. Is that why the buy wait for sale review stopped classifying it? What's the guy's name? Oh, you mean like ACG? Stopped classifying? Oh, did he stop doing that? I thought he was still doing it. I don't know. Did he stop doing it? I don't know. The 0 to 10 scale is also kind of vague. My view has like, I've tried the number scale. I've tried like just saying buy, wait for sale, whatever. I've kind of tried all of it. And where I've landed is that it just works better for me to describe what I think of the game, to put it as clearly as I can, and just tell you my personal recommendation. Right now, I just can't recommend you buy this at full price until they polish it or get it performing better. Or I would say right now, be very cautious, maybe go through Steam if you have returns available and refunds. Otherwise, I would hold off till they fix it. Like, I'll tell you that stuff, but I don't tend to like put a number on it or a big sticker label saying like, wait for a super deep sale or something. Yeah, the before you buy sir, basically, yeah. I think that strikes a good balance too. Sean, thank you for the $10 dues. Hey man, sent through a PayPal dono. Thank you, my friend. Jeez. Pog right there. Thank you. There should be a vote on my new segment recordings I left on Discord DMs. Okay, I will dig through those. Thank you, my friend. I'm so freaking behind on Discord DMs. I'm honestly pretty overwhelmed. I'm pretty overwhelmed by it. There's a lot. I just have to sit down and go through them, but like, you guys know how you get your email inbox and you have like 150 unread emails and you're like, if I just don't look at it, it's not a problem, right? That's me right now with all my DMs and stuff. I need to be better about it. But it's just, it gets so overwhelming. And then it goes, you skip it for a day and then it's 250. And then you're like, okay, well now I really don't want to go through it. And then the next day it's like 500 and you're like, oh my God, what if I just never check my email again? That's me right now with all that. That's me with all that. Real quick, we have tomorrow. Yeah, let's do this. My iPhone email has 14,227 unread email notifications. Gee whiz, dude. See, that's why I never logged into my email accounts on my iPhone like mail app, because I'm just going to use the Gmail app, and because it won't separate out like spam folders or advertising folders or anything. It'll just put all the emails into one bucket, and it's just too much. It's too much. I can't. It's too much. Anyway. News segment. Immediately, Luke lost half of his viewership. Okay, so tomorrow, the almighty day of reckoning is upon us. The day when we find out if all of our Fallout 4 mods will instantly implode? And the answer is, of course, yes. I mean, they will. There's no chance that this update does not break things, because every time they do major updates, there's major things that break. So if you have any Fallout 4 mods, I would just be braced for them all to break tomorrow. But that being said, there is a next gen update coming to Fallout 4 tomorrow on the 25th of April. Maybe today when you're seeing the stream clip, who knows? But it's all hitting next gen systems and PC tomorrow. And people have been wondering what actually is changed. Is this a major update? Is this like a remaster? What is included? And at the outset, I just want to be clear. This is not a remaster. This is not like a Skyrim Anniversary Edition or anything like that. This basically will tweak a few things. It will do some quality of life improvements that, frankly, I'm shocked were not already present. And it will probably break your mods if you have any installed. So just be aware of that. If you don't want to deal with this, maybe go into your Steam settings and disable automatic updates for Fallout 4, just so it doesn't automatically hit and break your stuff, just as a point of reference, okay? So what's included with this next gen update? Well, a handful of things. First and foremost, most of these improvements probably are going to be felt on PS4 and PS5. Xbox already has a lot of stability improvements, frame rate improvements and stuff included just by way of the backwards compatibility layer that they have on that console. And PC is PC. So most people either have mods or just brute force their way to better performance. But on PlayStation, they've been locked out of some of these improvements, and they probably will feel significant steps up in performance and stuff like that. Notably, the update to this is separated into two categories: upgrades for next-gen consoles and updates for PC. With consoles, they are adding performance mode and quality mode on PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. So you'll actually be able to toggle between the two depending on what you like. That's cool to see. Again, most notably, it'll probably be felt on PS5, but it's also being brought over there. So if you want to push resolution instead of frame rate, you can do that if you so desire on Xbox. Stability improvements as well. This is kind of a catch-all term for pretty much any fixes to crashes or bugs or anything. I'm sure there have been some things that have been changed and improved. Glad to hear it. I don't know if it will be significant or if it will carry forward the classic age-old Bethesda tradition of fixing one bug over here and breaking 5 other things over here, as almighty God Howard would have us do. I don't know how this is going to pan out, but even the most hardcore modders are bracing for this to break a lot of stuff. Not just mods, but even other things within the game itself. If you have been following the Fallout London saga, they're basically adding an entire new game on top of Fallout 4 in the way of a massive mod they've been working on for years and years and years and years. And that whole team postponed indefinitely the launch of their DLC expansion mod, which, I mean, it's on the scale of a DLC or expansion, but it's a mod for free. So they're postponing all of that because they fully expect this to just break tons of stuff that they'll have to fix, and then they'll release their big mod on the side. So who knows what stability improvement actually means, but these things could be really good. It could break a lot more. Who knows? 60 FPS for 60 FPS. I almost said FPS per second, which little derivative, but they're adding 60 FPS support for all of these consoles. Again, I believe you could already do that on Xbox Series X, but to see it introduced on PS5 is cool to see. That's a good thing. They are fixing quests on the PS4 and Xbox One, and login fixes on the PS4 and Xbox One if you're playing over there. And if you're playing on PC, they are specifically adding native support for widescreen and ultra widescreen support. This was already something, if you've ever played with widescreen monitors, there's an app. Do I still have it installed? I should. There's an app specifically, Flawless Widescreen. And it is an app that specifically enables widescreen support for tons of games. So you just download this one app, and then it installs basically mini mods to all of these games to support widescreen. And so this update to the game will now natively support that, but it was already a thing that you can do, which is Cool. Beyond this, they are adding creation kit fixes, quest updates, stability improvements, mods, and bug fixes. I don't know if this means they're fixing their own like creation kit or creation club mods or what. They also are fixing Japanese and Chinese login issues, which apparently have been a problem within the game for a while. So they're doing some stuff, but most of this stuff you can see is like, doesn't really change that much for PC players that they probably have already just fixed themselves, but nonetheless, it's happening. All new content that's being brought. This is the stuff that actually is like substantial, substantive, where they're actually adding stuff. They're adding an Enclave Colonel, or as I like to say to piss off people, Colonel uniforms. They're adding Enclave weapon skins, armor skins, Tesla cannons, Hellfire power armor, Exo 2 power armor, heavy incinerator, makeshift weapon pack, baseball launcher, nail gun, piggy bank. And then this one, which is just the most out of left field, Halloween Workshop, 38 Halloween themed decorations. It's just really random. Like, it's just odd. Like, it's beyond even what like Suicide Squad did, where they brought and released the Easter outfits like a week after Easter for some reason. And everybody's like, why didn't you release the Easter outfits during Easter? Like, or the days before Easter? Why is this launching after Easter? This is the opposite of what you should have done. And in this case, they're like a solid 6 months late for Halloween. And so I don't know if this was something they were going to charge for and then they just decided to toss it in. I don't know if this means that they originally planned for the next gen update to launch in October and then it got delayed till now. I don't really know, but it's just a little weird. And I haven't heard any good explanations or theories as to why it's releasing with Halloween stuff, but hey, it's happening. So take it if you care. So all told, I mean, they're bringing some stuff. To me, it just seems like it's mostly a console thing. If you're playing on PC, it's not really going to change that much. You might get some new items here and there, but nothing that crazy. It's a little odd. It's launching like 2 weeks after the show dropped because it seems, yeah, I know people keep saying it's because the bombs fell in October. They're Halloween freaking skins. Release them around Halloween. I know people like, the bombs dropped on that. Like, they're leftover decorations from before the war. Okay, they're still Halloween packages, Halloween DLC. They're releasing in April. I get thematically why they have stuff for October. It still is like 6 months late. Like, this is not rocket science. It's just, you would expect Halloween stuff would release around Halloween. I can't believe this is like that. Baffling for some people, but it's like it just seems to me like if you have Halloween stuff, you release it around Halloween because that's when people like Halloween stuff. But who knows? Either way, it's dropping for free, and I guess we give them credit for that. With all of this, I think it's good that it's happening finally, you know, better late than never, I suppose. But I've seen some people on social media or in our comment sections saying that this is going to be like featuring major graphical updates. They're like, yeah, I'm really hoping that this makes the game look a lot better. And it's like, none of that's happening. Okay, so don't get your expectations out of whack. It's a next gen update that will support higher frame rates. It says it will fix login issues and some bugs and questing issues, but it's not like a total re-release. It's not a remaster. It's not a remake. So just don't expect that. I know sometimes people are like, yeah, but that's a very small group of people that are doing it. Even if there's 500 people saying this or 1,000 people saying this, we can get ahead of it just by having properly lined up expectations. And as long as we don't get it too out of whack, we can still enjoy what's here and maybe go back and try Fallout 4 again after all this time. What's even more baffling than the fact they're releasing Halloween DLC in April is that Fallout 4 is 9 years old, almost 9 years old. Let that settle in. Do you feel old yet? Do you feel ancient? I do. 9 years ago. It's wild, right? It's wild. And what's even more wild is it's probably another decade before we get another Fallout game, a main title Fallout game. So just let that settle in too. That'll break your brain. It's just, time flies. I blame COVID. At the end of the day, I blame COVID. Everybody should just blame COVID for everything. That's the lesson, I think. If the update don't make the game like my modded ENB Stunning Fallout 4, then I don't want it. Yeah, we'll definitely get on there and disable automatic updates, because most likely this will break the script extender and all of that stuff. So just don't mess with it. This also, just in case anybody was wondering, yep. It's officially signed. ByteDance has 9 months to sell TikTok. Otherwise, the app will just be banned. That's crazy. Priorities, right? Stunning. Stunning, but what are you gonna do? It's above my pay grade. It's freaking dumb, but oh, Joraptor finished it. Amazing combat with defensive and offensive systems that are deeply connected. One of the best parry systems in a game. Great world building with a looming mystery. Incredible soundtrack. It sadly does feel rushed near the end. Bizarre no point of return that locks you out of a ton of content. Way more thoughts in the video. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. Dude's pissed about a Rise of the Ronin review. You thought the game that looks like it's running on a potato was bad, so I can't take you seriously anymore. Okay. Okay, simp. I don't know, but this is the thing. Like, there's some people that just cannot tolerate any sort of dissent. It's funny. It's very funny. Ugh. And this real quick, I guess I'll mention this just because it's interesting. So, this was reported out. I guess I should do this. News segment. Okay. So this was reported out by Grant Taylor Hill on Insider Gaming as well, who said that Sony was in early talks to release Helldivers 2 on Xbox. And this is after it's been on the market for about 2 months, and it's been wildly successful. I mean, it's been a triumph, dare I say. The website's glitching out a little bit. But it's been very, very positively received. And Sony has also expressed a lot of desire to get their live service games on as many platforms as possible, because at the end of the day, live service games are not really about what platform you're playing on them. That's not where they make their money. Live service games make their money from microtransactions and long-term support and engagement from players. And if you can get more players on Xbox engaging with it, awesome. So it's rumored that they're actually bringing Helldivers 2, or talking about bringing Helldivers 2 to Xbox. I don't know if this ever would actually see the light of day, if they actually would do this. Quote, we know that the PlayStation has a new CEO at the moment, and I think the new CEO might be more open to certain things. And what I've heard is that there may be some very, very early preliminary discussions about the possibility of Helldivers coming to Xbox. It's worth stressing, as Nick does, this isn't confirmation, it's just a rumor. And as we learned with like those rumors about Xbox potentially bringing Starfield to PlayStation or this or that, with a lot of this stuff, early discussions could literally just mean an email went out saying, yeah, we've considered maybe we do this, but you know, we'll see in the future if it makes sense. It really doesn't mean much. I think they are right that the current interim CEO is more open to this than like a Jim Ryan or a Sean Layden would have been. But as for whether we ever see Helldivers 2 on Xbox, I would not put my money on it happening. I think the trouble of developing a port and then like balancing all of the other server infrastructure crap that goes along with it to introduce Xbox to the platform, I just think is a lot. I don't think it's that likely. Would it be nice? to get more players involved with it, sure. But I just would not. I would not put much weight on that ending up to actually happening. I don't think that'll actually happen. Dude, some of these articles, I'm just like, Stellar Blade in-game art referencing racial slur will be removed. It's like, there's a piece of graffiti that's copied all over the game, and they accidentally put hard next to a neon light that's an R for Roxanne, who's one of the in-game like brokers. It's not in-game art referencing a racial slur. It's like kind of a weird, awkward coincidence that they're like, yeah, we'll just take it out, whatever. It's not a big deal. But to just be like, it's art referencing a racial slur is kind of ridiculous. Like, I don't know. I find that to be a kind of a toxic title for clickbait. Like I'm sure the article points it out. Yeah, in-game shop, R shop, R hard is placed next to it. This evokes a reference to racist language, which Sony claims was unintentional. They claimed. It probably was intentional. It's all part of a broader conspiracy. Like, it's just so stupid. Like, just fishing for clicks with this stuff. It's just so dumb. It's unbelievable. But yeah. It's just rage bait. Well, yeah, like you get the people that freak out about it because they're like, see, yeah, it is actually like a dog whistle to racists who like Stellar Blade. And then the other people that are pissed off because they're like, this clearly is not what you're making it out to be. Like, it's just so dumb. And the problem is it like diminishes actual like scandalous things that happen in games or actual problems in games when you're just crying wolf all of the time, you know? It's ridiculous. Are you ready for like my own clickbait? You ready? News segment. Shocking breaking news. Microsoft is closing Bethesda France. France. Microsoft is continuing with its plans to cut 1,900 jobs, this time focusing on Bethesda France. Allegedly. According to multiple people online, the company has shut down its Bethesda France office after 12 years. News of the closure began trickling out as partners posted about their time working with the company coming to an end. Quote, 8 years of my life dedicated to Bethesda France, one community manager wrote on Twitter. 8 years of wonderful encounters, memories that I will never forget, and unique opportunities. A page that is turning and which hurts many people. In a reply to someone on Twitter, the same community manager said it was because of mass layoffs at Microsoft globally. The office employed 15 people and focused mostly on publishing and marketing within the region. The office closure isn't expected to have any overall impact on the company's plans for games. Insider Gaming has reached out for confirmation from Microsoft, blah, blah. So it sounds really dramatic, but really it's like 15 people and it's a publishing arm mostly. Like it's not actually that crazy. But if we're really dramatic, we can make it out to sound really, really crazy. Microsoft seemingly closes Bethesda. ... France. A publishing arm with 15 employees. I mean, this type of thing is pretty common happening in the industry right now. I was actually just talking to another YouTuber the other day about some of this stuff happening, because these marketing and publishing arms are usually the groups of people that will contact influencers and like reviewers and stuff for review codes or for media events and stuff. And a lot of companies have been streamlining this and firing people and reorganizing teams and stuff. So for example, like I know in Europe, a lot of companies have fired individual teams that work within individual countries and moved to like a broader European team that handles all the marketing. Or like for Ubisoft, I think years and years ago, they had like a West Coast team and an East Coast team. And then they had a separate team to handle Canadian stuff. And then, you know, they had all of this separated out. And they've pretty much combined all of that stuff together. So they have a team that does all of the US. They have a team that does all of like Canada and some French territories and stuff. And they've just streamlined all of it. I think it's maybe more of an artifact of like increased efficiency in the digital age, where you don't really need to have a ton of like office buildings occupied with teams. You can have people that are communicating through DMs through Discord or emails or stuff like that. You don't really need thousands of people on the marketing teams anymore. It's just not that practical, you know? So it sounds really dramatic, but it's actually something that's been happening all over the industry for years and is pretty common. Unfortunately, I mean, it's happening a lot. And I feel for the people that work at these marketing teams. They're often some of the sweetest people you'll ever meet, and they work hard. They do really good work, but it's just something that happens, unfortunately, with this stuff. Okay. Let's see. Eric, thank you for the super chat. Have you seen Stellar Blade reviews, Luke? Yeah, first thing we did on stream today, looking good. Yeah. To me, it seems kind of like we were expecting. It's a solid game that probably doesn't have the most compelling story or side questing and stuff, but I think we all kind of expected that. So nothing too crazy. But yeah. Oh, Nashman, why are you always dropping videos when you go live? Yeah, it's kind of like a remnant of how we used to do things. I think it's just because we initially set it up so I could tell people when we're streaming, like, oh yeah, we just put up a new video, and people from the new video would come over and see me live at the same time, and we just kind of lined them up at the same time. But now it's kind of become a hindrance for some uploads, I think. So okay. Yeah. Marketing makes sense. Yeah, marketing always complicates things. Damn marketing. But okay, we covered that. We covered that. We hit on that. And what else? Okay. Manor Lords early access review. Let's see this one. I've been waiting for Manor Lords. I've been waiting for Manor Lords. I'll tell you what. Let's see what we got. Let's see what we got. I'm pretty hopeful.
Gazing out across my lively medieval burg in Manor Lords, I see great promise. The detailed buildings, villagers, and landscapes are always pleasant to look upon. The complex, rewarding, if not necessarily precision-balanced economy is entertaining and intuitive to interact with. And the war cries of my homegrown militia, off to bash some bandits, remind me that each bloody clash is costing someone a son or a husband. But for all its potential, Manor Lords is an extremely early access feeling early access game at this point. Sometimes it even seems more like a proof of concept than a finished product.
I mean, this is something that is just a personal pet peeve of mine when people buy early access games and then are like upset that it's early access. Like, it drives me crazy. People will buy an early access game and they're like, oh, but it's like performance isn't that good and there's some stuff missing. Yeah. That's like the whole point of it. Like, yes, it drives me up the wall. I understand people are like, well, but I'm paying like real money for this. I should get a final product and stuff. It's like, okay, well then wait for it to not be in early access. When it's in early access, the understanding is you're giving them money now, just like a Kickstarter basically, but you're getting access to a work in progress version of the game. That's the expectation. And for people to then complain about things like performance or content and things like that is just a little silly to me. Not a little silly. It's stupid and it drives me crazy. They did it with, No Rest for the Wicked as well. It's like, it's early access, guys. It's not supposed to be like, they're not pitching it or selling it as a finished product. That's why they specifically chose to release it as early access, not a full release. Because they're saying to you, it's not done. We're giving it to you early, getting your feedback, and we're going to finish the game with that help from you. And if you're not comfortable with that, that's totally okay. You don't have to buy it. Like, nobody's saying you have to buy it.
There is plenty of fun to be had in this initial release of Manor Lords. The freedom to lay out bustling streets and market squares, putting villagers to work on sprawling farms and in smoky backyard workshops, is a joyful and generally well-paced experience. The road tool is a little fiddly for my liking, but laying out custom lots and snapping everything together dynamically at the corners makes it easy to craft settlements that look and feel cohesive and realistic. One of my favorite little touches is the addition of backyard workshops, which let you move commerce into the places where people actually live. That's much more accurate to the era Manor Lords is trying to capture than having massive commercial buildings everyone works at. I get this cozy, familiar feeling when I zoom in and see that this is where the town blacksmith lives, and just across the way, Herman and Agnes brew beer for the lively tavern down the road.
Shout out to Herman. Herman's always got you. The music goes hard though. Yeah, dude, for real. For real. Oh, Bill, nice try. I'm not biting that bait. No way. No way. It is. I'm not biting that bait.
Almost everything about the sound design and visual presentation is exceptional. Rainstorms patter and boom, leaving roads slick and strewn with puddles.
Give me that boom.
Winter blankets everything in a sparkling frost. The animations for something as simple as getting water from a well are grounded and meticulously detailed in a way that always rewards me for zooming in. There's even a neat feature that lets you run around as a character in your own town, but not without some weirdness. For one thing, you'll always be this exact guy, no matter which portrait you chose for your ruler during setup. And for another, the collision detection on buildings is clearly unfinished. As you can see, this open gate features an impenetrable invisible wall, whereas the church, we can wander right through without a care, like a sacrilegious ghost. This and several other features, to be clear, are marked as work in progress in the UI, and that's totally fine. Manor Lords is consistently upfront about what's finished and what isn't. I also ran into some other fun and funny visual glitches, like this horrifying sheep that looks like it got lost on the way to a John Carpenter movie. Again, stuff like this doesn't ruin the experience, but it does remind me that we're very early in early access.
These are always like, it's kind of conflicting though, because on the one hand, like, you want to mention it, you want to bring it up, because like, it's something players will encounter if they give money and get access to this, but also it's like, yeah, no, this is extremely expected. Like if you've ever played early access games, very, very expected.
The main difficulty in Manor Lords comes from keeping all of your villagers supplied with food and fuel so they don't die, then providing them with amenities like clothes and beer to level up their dwellings and start producing wealth.
Hell yeah.
It's a pretty decent little economic loop that offers enough friction to prevent outright snowballing, especially when you get a large population that is dependent on crop fertility, mills, and bakeries to not starve. You can even specialize a settlement in making money and trade for most of your material needs, which is pretty neat. It can be a bit rough getting things going initially though. As I discussed in my 6 things to know before you play guide, there are very limited ways to distribute your starting 5 families' labor that won't get you into big trouble. The tutorials are decent, but the UI sometimes made it difficult to find the information I wanted. For instance, you can hold tab to see what everyone in a given building is doing, but I couldn't for the life of me find a way to view a list of all available families and where they were assigned to. This is a complex management game. I need more spreadsheets. The other thing that can go very wrong early on is getting wrecked by bandits before you have the resources to build a full militia. And it seems like there's really no recovering from this. On one save file, 2 of the bandits just stuck around and kept burning things forever, even after several minutes on the fastest game speed, so I couldn't rebuild, but I also never got a game over.
Yeah, I've run into that with some sim games though, where you just hit like a fail state and there's not much you can do. You just kind of soft lock yourself because things broke and there's no way to fix it. It does happen. I had that happen in Factorio once, where I had like bugs come in and raid everything and there was just nothing I could do, but the game was still running, but I just could never do anything to get over it. Like it was just a tough spot.
So much for that run, I guess. When I did get a proper army assembled though, I really enjoyed the core of the RTS combat. It's sort of Total War light, with formations of about 20 to 40 guys who can be spearmen, axemen, pikemen, or archers. Each of these must be equipped individually with weapons, shields, and armor that you either have to make or trade for yourself, which ties the economic and warfare systems together nicely. Eventually, by building a manor, an elite cadre of men-at-arms can be recruited, who are fully customizable and can equip even better gear. Issuing orders is a breeze, and there are a number of different commands from charge forward to give ground that cut down on the amount of micromanagement required in battle. The issue is, I hardly ever needed to make much use of these systems in the current build. Your ultimate adversary, that nasty Baron across the way, was never able to put together an army that could compete with one even a fair-sized town of my own could muster. Random bandits become almost a joke to deal with once you have at least 2 full regiments. I didn't even find myself taking enough casualties to affect my economy much in the late game.
It is cool though that you can have like a fight that causes so many people to die that it throws off your local economy. That's kind of cool.
Outgrowing the greatest possible military challenges seems far too easy.
Issa, this is Manor Lords. This is an upcoming early access game, and it's the most wishlisted game on Steam.
It left me simply waiting around to generate enough influence to claim more of my rivals' lands. A system for the King's Favor, which can speed this up, doesn't seem to really be implemented yet. Oh, and that manor I mentioned earlier? It's also quite a bare bones and clunky system at this point. Though, again, the UI will warn you of this. There's a tax office that simply doesn't do anything. You can build walls and towers, but everything enclosed by them becomes considered part of the blueprint of the manor itself, which stops you from building anything else in that area ever again. So you can theoretically wall off your whole settlement, but gods forbid you ever need to move, demolish, or rebuild anything in that zone. I'd honestly recommend just plopping the basic manor building and the garrison to max out your retinue size, then don't worry about it until later patches make it actually usable. There's also only one map right now, which is a bit of a bummer. It's huge and gorgeous, featuring several regions you can start your settlement in, but I look forward to seeing more varied geography in the final version. Also, not letting me pick my starting tile is pretty annoying and often led to me restarting over and over until I was randomly placed in the one I wanted.
Yeah, that's just a little mini oversight. Diarrhea blowout. Thank you for the membership. Thank you. Keep it skeptical. Yeah, keep keeping it skeptical.
Manor Lords is a gorgeous medieval city builder that kept me occupied for hours building my perfect cozy hamlet.
Wait, are they gonna put a number on it? Are they gonna actually put a number on an early access review? That would be weird. I kind of hope they don't. I wouldn't put a number on it.
It's not the type of early access game that seems like all it needs is some spit and polish to be fully playable. No, it's definitely unfinished in several key critical ways, notably lacking much of an endgame challenge or any way to put its flashy RTS battles to a real test. It's a great foundation, and I see a lot of promise here, but there was only so much fun I was able to squeeze out of such an incomplete demo. I will definitely be keeping my eye on Manor Lords and eagerly awaiting each new update, but I also wouldn't blame you if you decided to hold off on striking the earth for now. That's not a dig at all. I said the exact same thing about Baldur's Gate 3 when it first released into early access, and it eventually came full circle to become one of my favorite games of all time. But I have to be realistic about what's here right now, and it's somewhat less than what would allow me to recommend it wholeheartedly.
I mean, doing any sort of review or discussion of an early access game is weird because it's not really about recommending. It's almost like if you should tell people, in my view, you should tell people what the game is and aims to be. And then say if you want to support it and get involved early, you can do that now, or just wait. Like, it's really because the game isn't done. So putting a number on it to me is just weird. I would even go so far as to say it's not even appropriate to put a number on it, you know? It's almost like reviewing a game and giving a game a review score based off of the demo. It's just like, that's not what you're like, that's not how that works though. Like, it's early access, it's in active development. And early access stuff changes so freaking quickly. Like, so much of the stuff that even he pointed out here is going to be addressed very, very quickly, I would imagine. And to be clear, I don't think it's this individual reviewer's deal. I'm sure he was assigned to do this by, or it was by Leanna. So wait, who's doing this? Or is it just being voiced over? Okay, I don't know. Well, whoever, like, I'm sure it's not the reviewer's problem or issue here. I think it's probably an editorial thing where they specifically asked for this to be done and to have a score put on it. I just don't think it's appropriate to put a score on an early access game that's being clearly pitched and sold as early access. If you choose to pursue early access games and if you want to support this one because you think it's got a lot of potential, awesome. But it's just weird to score early access games, I think, in my view. Yeah, I agree with it, but it doesn't mean, but doesn't IGN kind of have to? A 7 is generous, even compares it to Baldur's Gate 3. I bet it's IGN's philosophy. Yeah, no, I think it's their policy to do this, and that they will go out and do, they'll put review scores on all major games that are being discussed. And I mean, obviously this is an early access review. They're pitching it as a review. People are clicking on it because it's a review. I just think, like, you can review it, describe what it's like, But putting a number on a game specifically when it's in early access is just odd to me. And I would say it's odd for Baldur's Gate 3 years ago. And I think it's odd to do it now as well for this game. But it launches early access in 2 days on the 26th. And so a day and 17 hours. So it's on its way. It's on its way. I mean, I think the game looks great. I know, I believe the developer was actually in our comment section for the last stream clip that we did. And he was actually commenting and replying to some people that were asking questions or talking about the game and stuff. So he's clearly very involved with the community and those that are watching and checking out the stuff. Who knows, maybe he'll see this video. I think the game looks really solid. I'm going to be purchasing the early access copy because I'd like to support it and see it through to the end. The fact that this is being put together by a guy is crazy and I think phenomenal. And this is exactly the kind of game that I personally enjoy and love. This is my guilty pleasure type game. As I've told you guys many times, I love simulation games. I just don't typically cover them on the channel because it's not something that tends to resonate much with my audience specifically, but it's fine. It's fine. But this is something I'm going to choose to support, understanding its early access. And if that's something that you guys want to also support, awesome. Because I mean, I would love to be able to talk about it more, but I can't wait to give it a shot, and I look forward to playing it. Let's see what happened to the Titanic game. It's still in the works. That thing has been in the works for like a decade, and it's just very, very, very slow moving. Yeah, in case you guys don't know what he's referring to, it's Titanic Honor and Glory. And Titanic Honor and Glory is basically this YouTube channel, but it's also a project where they are recreating the entirety of the Titanic and creating a version of it that can be explored and walked around and enjoyed in real time. So for this, you see it's new 2024 animation. So the 112th anniversary, I believe. Yeah, 112 years ago. And it's a real-time animation of the sinking of the Titanic, from scraping it all the way through the ship sinking. And they actually show what happened as it was going down. And they show the interiors that they fully modeled and rendered. They've done crazy levels of like research to get the chair designs accurate, to get the placemats, how they folded the napkins. All of that is historically accurate. And yeah, the stained glass on the walls, all of it historically accurate. And you can actually download the demo and try it yourself and explore the levels yourself. I have, do I still have it? I should still have it. Demo 401, I think. Maybe. Oh, baby. I think I still have it, actually. This is it. Yeah, welcome aboard the final update of Demo 401. 50% of the greatest ship ever built. She is certainly our largest and most detailed Titanic recreation. But after all this time, they still are about halfway through. But you can see, you can go to first class, the promenade, the baths, second class, third class, officers only, crew areas forward, post office baggage, boiler rooms. Can I go into the boiler rooms? I don't know if they've actually rendered and modeled all that. Yeah, they have. But you can see, you can actually like walk around these full recreations of these spaces with coal bunkers and everything else. So it's full historical recreations of it in Unreal Engine if you want to see what it actually would have been like to be in the belly of the Titanic. I mean, this is what it was like. It's a full historically accurate recreation. So there's just a lot of work, shocker, that goes into this. It is not very simple work. It's extremely tedious. This isn't like what some other companies will do, where they'll do kind of like a ballpark recreation where it's about right. No, they are going into the blueprints. They are following very closely the guidelines of the original builders, and it's all historically accurate. So if you want to experience it yourself, you can, and you can try it. And like with this, if we want to walk aboard the promenade, we should be able to do that. First class promenade. I think this one. And so whether this actually takes the form of a full-on game or whatever else, it's not really clear. We did an interview with the director of the project about a year ago, and it was fascinating, just absolutely fascinating to hear the process of all of this and how the project has changed and adapted and evolved over time. But I mean, you can see, like, you can actually walk around the Titanic if you want. And right now it's about 50% done. They've got a lot that they still need to do, but their ultimate goal is to have full recreations of everything. So you can go into pretty much every room. You can go into every bathroom, every closet. They want everything to be done. And then they can take the steps of figuring out what they need to do beyond that. But if you want to actually explore the Titanic, you can get a pretty good idea of it from this, and eventually it'll be the full ship. So I'm a Titanic nerd, as you know. I mean, I've got the Titanic ship above me. I find the ship fascinating. It's a classic tale of human arrogance and bravado, and I think it's a lesson that's important to learn and cherish. But now we can see these digital recreations of it, which is super, super cool. Yeah, right now it's just a tech demo, and it's a proof of concept to show what they've been working on. You know, they've not just been sitting on their hands. They've been doing a lot of really fascinating work, and it's very, very good work, but it's not like, this is not easy to do. It would be one thing if they were like, yeah, we took the pictures and then we made like a ship and it looks like the Titanic if you glance at it. But if you were to like really delve into it, it's not actually that accurate. No, they've gone through and they've counted up exactly what the rails need to look like. They've counted up the planks of wood that go on the deck, and they've counted like what the window panes would actually look like, how they would latch. They've looked at all of the attachments for these, were these attached with screws or bolts. Like, everything has been factored in and considered. And so if you're a history nerd and buff, there's a lot to enjoy here, but it's time-consuming work, to say the very, very least. Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's crazy. It's super, super cool. So, like, what's that one? Load not to exceed 2.5 tons. I guess I can't climb on it. Something, notice passengers are not allowed forward of this. That was actually a thing in the Titanic movie where they go up there and they do the "I'm king of the world" and all that. "I'm flying, Jack." Passengers were not actually technically allowed up there, but apparently it was well known that like officers wouldn't enforce it that heavily. So you could probably sneak up there, but you weren't really supposed to be on there. But the thing with this that always shocks me is just that I'm like, it's not as huge as you might think. Like you watch the movie, or you might like read the books and the stories about it, and you imagine this just epic, massive, crazy ship. But by modern standards, the Titanic wasn't that big. I mean, it's a big ship, certainly, but it wasn't like modern cruise ships. Modern cruise ships are just floating cities. It's outrageous, you know, but back in the day, you know, this was a floating city in and of itself. But by modern standards, it's not that huge. It's just wild how far we've come, but yeah, super, super cool. So as for when this actually sees the light of day or what happens, I don't know. I really don't know. I know they're working on it. It's just a slow moving process. There's a lot that goes into it, but yeah. Do you know if they're going to add NPCs? They've talked about it. I remember asking them about it, and they were like, yeah, it's something we're looking at doing. It just depends on what the final product looks like. But they said there's a lot of kind of ethical questions where it's like, there were a lot of children on the ship. Do we make NPCs of children? And then as we do this, if the goal is to create like a full simulation of the sinking, what happens to the NPCs? Like, do the NPCs go in the water and drown? Do we simulate the children drowning as well? Do we really want to do that? Or is it something we just leave up to people's imaginations, basically, you know? Like, I think there's very valid questions. It's not an easy thing to do because it's horrible. I mean, the whole thing, it is a tragedy. It's a catastrophe through and through. And so there's just a lot of difficult things where you're like, do we really want to go there? Or do we want to just focus on the marvel of the engineering and the ship and let the legacy of the ship carry on? Do we want to go to that extent, you know? Yeah. Can you legally make children drown in games? Is that allowed? I in some countries you can't. I remember it's a classic thing in like Bethesda games. The child NPCs were always something that regulatory agencies were checking. But that's the other thing is it's like, I don't know if they even intend to like do the type of thing where they release this on Steam and try to sell it as a game, or is it more of a historical thing? You know, like, do they just basically make it available for download directly and they don't worry about any of that? Like, you know, there's just a lot of things like that you have to ask. But as of right now, their goal is to recreate the ship. And once they've recreated the ship, they can use that to do whatever else they need to do. It's recreating the ship that takes all the time and effort. That's the trouble right now. So, yeah. They got to make a Telltale game out of the Titanic. Well, there was an old school game that is like kind of crazy, honestly, when you look back at it. It was like in the 90s, I think. Adventure Out of Time. I think that's what it was. Yeah, look at this. There's this thing, and it's like a whole game set in the sinking of the Titanic. I think this is it. And there's all sorts of like insane stuff with this, where there's like time travel mechanics and there's like magical crystals, and it's been a while since I looked at it, but it's like kind of crazy. And it's almost at the point where it's like, this is almost in like bad taste. This is weird. This is weird. You know, it just makes me very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. And these old 90s like stop motion animation cutscenes and stuff. So it's something where like you can make a game out of it, but you also don't want to like directly profit off of the tragedy or anything, or forget the tragedy. So there's just a fine line to walk with all of it, I think. And I think it's a tough line to walk if you're trying to make a video game out of it, because how you make a game fun is not necessarily how you do the most like honorable and respectful thing as far as video games are concerned, you know? Yes, my aunt used to play this game. Yeah. It's just, I think they're going to cross that bridge when they come to it. And as of right now, it's like, it's not really worth the trouble. It's like, we'll figure it out after we're done. We'll figure it out. Yeah, if Ubisoft did it, the iceberg would be a DLC. Yeah, you get to sail the ship, and then the iceberg is the DLC, and then the sinking is a separate DLC and expansion for $30, and it's just it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. James Cameron didn't mind. Yeah, I mean, the Titanic movie, I think, did a good job of retelling the story with some fictional flair to it. But I think they did a good job of showing the horrors of the tragedy. There's some little creative liberties taken here and there, but in general, I think they did a good job. You know, it wasn't like they just did a full-on time travel. The Titanic sinking is actually because the crystal of doom was lost and we have to find it, you know? Go back in time and change the timeline or whatever. Like, you know. It's a little more complicated than that. Yeah, or like they would do it where like if you want a different skin on the lifeboat or life preserver, it's $10 for different skins on each one. It's just like, what's the most outrageous thing we could possibly do? That makes sense. That makes sense. Save the Children DLC. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Oh, that's big brain, B Vargas. Yeah. If you buy standard edition, you live on the third deck. If you buy the deluxe, you're on the second class. And if you buy the ultra whatever gold edition, you're on first class. So if you spend less, it's harder for you to get off the ship. It's just like, we wanted to go really meta with this and really affirm the idea of different classes, you know? That's our goal. It's just... Oh, man. What's sad is I could actually see that being a thing. That's what's really sad. It's funny until you realize that it could actually happen. Steerage edition. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. If you buy early access, oops, I pressed a button. If you buy early access, you get off the ship in the first wave of lifeboats. Otherwise you have to wait. It's just like, who thought this was a good idea? I don't know. In the moment, it seemed really immersive and really cool, but yeah, in hindsight, maybe this was a little too on the nose. Dude, I can only imagine what would happen. Honestly, what's crazy is that would probably cause such like a storm of press. Everybody would be talking about it, and the game would probably honestly sell very well. Because people would just try it out of curiosity and be like, oh, well, yeah, that's kind of cool. Yeah, you could do it as satire while also still making the money for it. Yeah. No, it just gets tricky. It gets tricky. And the thing is, like, the people that are doing this recreation of the ship are history buffs, and they are like fascinated by the ship and the stories of those on it. And they want to respect it. So it's not like the Titanic film was made by filmmakers. It was made by people that were trying to put together a movie that was, you know, true to the source material, but still at the end of the day made a lot of money. That was their goal. With this, it's being made by basically a team of historians. And so they're not, like, that's not their first primary goal, is to make tons of money. Like, their goal is to make a true to source recreation of the Titanic. And if it happens to make money or turn a profit at the end of the day after all of these years, then cool. But that's not their primary concern, you know. It's just not the primary goal. But yeah, anyway, so that's the Titanic project. It's in the works. It's happening, but it's taken ages. If you ever want to look it up, just look up Titanic Honor and Glory. Go to their website. You can download the demo and walk around the ship yourself. It's free, as far as I know. So just go try the demo, and you download it. You can just walk around the ship, and it's just kind of like a cool thing to have on your computer. It's like, oh, cool. Who knew? Who knew? What does this even mean? I'm trying to figure out what this means. From Richard Hogue, not sure. My current working theory is that Starfield is optimistic and forward-looking in a way that doesn't match the present cultural zeitgeist, while Fallout is cynical and backwards-looking in a way that does. I expect Starfield to be better received when culture cycles around again. So Starfield is like an optimistic look at human future, and Fallout is a more cynical one, and therefore Fallout is a better fit for the current zeitgeist than Starfield, and therefore Starfield will be better received when culture cycles around and is feeling more optimistic. My problem with that is just maybe narratively speaking out, but I don't think of anybody that really had that big of a problem with the themes of Starfield. It was more mechanistic, like design issues with the video game. You know? Like, yeah, I think we all, like, there's plenty of people that are hopeful for manned space exploration and adventuring out into the cosmos. Absolutely. But I don't think that was people's problem with it. Like, I agree. Part of the reason Fallout 4, I think, is resonating with a lot of people narratively, especially after the show, is because it does bring up some interesting ideas of like fear mongering and the role of the media and corporations when they have like a vested interest in things that might be against the interests of their consumers. But Starfield did not like land flat for so many people because they were feeling cynical and it was feeling optimistic. It was because the game just was boring after a while, you know? I think that's more of it. Let's see. Your theory is based on the assumption that anyone does or will care about the game's narrative or voice, of which there is basically none, when all the common criticisms are based around gameplay, none of which has improved or is likely to be addressed in a meaningful way. I think that, like music, game narrative is often not given the credit it deserves for how one feels about a game experience. But I don't think that changes the point of this. Like the core problem with Starfield for most people was the constant load screens, the fishbowl environments, the repeated content, the fact that after like 20, 30 hours, it just got boring. And that was really frustrating for them. Whereas Fallout is more engaging in the long term. Yeah, the story can help with that. If you have a really compelling story or themes and things that can keep you going, that can make up for some of it. But at the end of the day, if the game is just boring, the game's just boring. You know? Starfield wasn't really saying anything of substance, and the gameplay further wasn't very substantial, which is why people didn't like it. I mean, for me, it basically just turned the whole main story was basically just a fetch quest. And it's about exploring the stars and looking for something great. But at the core, like, it's just a series of fetch quests over like 40 hours or however long it will take you to get through. I agree. It wasn't really saying anything. I think he means thematically it's very optimistic and forward looking because you're exploring space and it's about how man can overcome, you know, this earthly coil and can go adventuring. And yeah, that is more optimistic than Fallout as a franchise, but I don't think that has anything to do with the game's reception. Certainly the game's story, and I think even the vibe of Starfield is very, very flat compared to a lot of other stuff. Fallout is such a recognizable franchise. You see it, you hear it, you instantly know it. Elder Scrolls, a little bit less so. Like there's the Fus Roda and things like that where, you know, from Skyrim it might be more iconic, or like the horned helmet might be more iconic and recognizable. But I don't know if it's necessarily like Starfield. I just don't think it does anything super unique. The NASA punk is like the most unique thing about it, but even that is not super iconic in and of itself. By the way, Banana Brains, this is crazy. I'm sorry I just am saying this 15 minutes later, but Banana Brains coming in clutch with a resub with Prime. 52 months. Goodness gracious. Thank you, my friend. That is crazy. 52 months. Wow. That's outrageous. That breaks my brain. That's well before we were consistently streaming. That's well before. Like, that's from when I like opened my Twitch account, streamed a few times, and then didn't stream for a year because I was still in college, and then streamed a little bit more and stuff. Like, Banana Brains has been a sub that whole time. Keeping on it. Like, that's crazy. Well, it says 52 months, currently on a 2-month streak, so I think there was a little break, but it's still 52 months. That's insane. That's insane. Thank you, Banana Brains. I have no one else to use my Prime sub. Yeah, well, hey, man, I appreciate it. That's crazy. That's exactly Pokemon. Dare I say, bananas. That's a bananas. Yeah. Oh, was it the Warzone days? Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Warzone days, back when we would do like Warzone Wednesdays and stuff. I'd get back from working my job in Denver or at the bank or wherever I was working at the time, and I just like, I remember just coming back wanting to release and relax finally, and so I was like, I just need anything. Just need anything. Yeah, anyway. That's crazy. Haven't seen the new Shogun series? Not yet. My brain's fried though, I'm sorry. Yeah, he's been a sub since your early access. Basically, dude. Basically. No joke. Unironically, that's what it is. Oh man, my brain is just fried today, man. My brain is fried. So, I will... Oh, this is a point for the Manor Lords dev. I just saw one press review try to cheese their way and build town walls with the castle planner tool. Please restrain yourself from doing so. I'll add proper town wall tool in one of the updates. And the castle planner is meant for manors and castles. Should have locked it for now. Is that the IGN review? Is that what he's referring to? That might be, because he brought that up in that review, I thought. But yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. We're gonna check it out. We'll check it out. Maybe Friday we bring that up. Anyway, Felix, I love you, man, for real. Thor's talking truth. Luke, would you rather Fallout universe next game be made by Ubisoft or Capcom? I mean, I think I would need to know, like, is it going to be an open world game, or is it going to be... I think I need to know which Capcom team, because Capcom has a few teams. Some are good, some are fine. Like, my knee-jerk reaction would be Capcom, but I think it depends. Because, like, you could do like a linear narrative, kind of Resident Evil style Fallout game in a pretty cool way. That could be pretty sick. So I don't know. But that's a good question. Baldur's Gate 4 release date. They're not making another Baldur's Gate, so never. Unless they give, like, Wizards of the Coast gives it to some other studio. But yeah, they're not working on that. They've already said they're not doing another Baldur's Gate. They're going back to their own IP. So yeah. Trick question. The answer is never. Which I get, like, they don't want to pay 30% to Wizards of the Coast or whatever it is. They don't want to do that. Like, I understand it. They also want to do their own thing. They don't want to just keep milking the franchise. I understand all of it, but it still is like, I really liked it. I would like to see another one. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think they're going to greenlight more D&D games, whether it's framed as Baldur's Gate 4 or it's framed as something else. I don't know. I think already there are rumors of like 4 or 5 different D&D games in the works, of all different scopes and scales. Not necessarily just like top-down isometric RPGs or whatever, but I think we'll see a lot of other uses of the franchise. Hasbro said they're looking for someone else to do it, didn't they? Oh, maybe they did. I mean, I wouldn't, even if they didn't say that, I would be shocked if that wasn't true, because it just makes sense. Like, Baldur's Gate 3 made tons of money. They're like, okay, well, they don't want to do another one. Let's just figure out who else can do it and just make us a little more cash, because they're not doing anything with the franchise. They're like, might as well have somebody do it, you know? Padsy, thank you. Someone with Prime, appreciate you. Thank you. Yeah, B Vargas, I don't know if they move away from isometric. They're so specialized in it. I don't know if they would ever move away from it. It's kind of what they're known for. It's kind of their thing, you know? I don't know if they would do that. But thank you, Walrus. Appreciate you. Thank you. Well, fam, here's the deal. I've got to go eat some food because I'm getting shaky, which to me is usually an indication of blood sugar getting low. So I'm going to go eat some food. I'm going to work on the stuff I've got to work on. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. I appreciate every single one of you hanging out with me. You all are wonderful. Go check out the new video on Tales of Kenzera. Apparently some people are upset because like something with Sweet Baby Inc. or whatever. I've liked the game. I don't know what role they had to play in it, but I'm not going to apologize for liking the game. There's some like little things I mentioned in the video where I'm like, they need more enemy variety, stuff like that. But for a brand new studio from a new team, a brand new IP, I think the game's really solid. Go check out the video if you want. And I'd appreciate you. Thank you everyone for hanging out and vibing with me. I'm vibing. Chilling and rocking out. I love you all dearly, and I'll see you in the next video or stream, whichever comes first. Much love. I'll see you soon. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.